What if Edward betrayed Bella's heart? Part 3. Tyler was found dead in Atlanta this morning. Dead. It took a moment for the words to sink in, and when they did, it shook me to my core. I was suddenly feeling sicker than ever. It didn't seem real that Tyler was gone. He was a great guy and I'd only known him for a little while, but it seemed like only yesterday that he was standing in my driveway, talking to me alive. How? I managed to choke out as my eyes began to blur. Maybe you should wait for a minute so you can let everything sink in, he tried, but I cut him off. How? I said in a stronger voice, but my traitor tears began to trickle down my cheeks. Edward sighed. Emmett told me a friend of Tyler's found him in his apartment after he didn't come to work. The police said he was surrounded by. He seemed hesitant and I was praying it wasn't what I suspected. That this wasn't because of who I feared it would be. Are you sure you're okay for me to continue? Yes, I whispered. Edward scrubbed his face and took a breath before continuing. He was surrounded by pills and other various types of drugs. He overdosed and they're saying it's suicide because there was no sign of a struggle or any evidence that someone else was there with him in his apartment. No, I defended as soon as Edward had finished. Tyler had no reason to kill himself. How could the police even think that? Bella, you can never know about a person's background or true feelings. I'm not saying I agree with the police, I'm just saying we don't know what he was feeling. Anything could have happened. I stood up and wiped away my tears. I couldn't even begin to think about what poor Beth Crowley was going through with the police telling people her oldest son had taken his own life. But Edward had a point. I may have known Tyler to some degree, but I didn't know him very well at all. He'd asked me to get to know him, but I'd rejected him for Edward. I'm sorry, I apologized to Edward. I shouldn't have snapped at you, I'm being so insensitive. Tyler was your friend too, much more than mine. How are you taking this? It's unexpected. Guilt surged through me. He was hurting and I'd gotten angry with him. I'm so sorry. I'm being selfish. I can't believe I was such a bitch to you when you're upset. Don't beat yourself up, he ordered and brought me into his arms, my head tucked into his neck. You've got nothing to be sorry for, and okay, I'll admit I'm hurting slightly. Tyler was there for me when I was having a hard time, and although he may have disliked me for what I did, I wish I could have helped him when he needed me to. But it's too late for regret. What's done is done and he'll be missed. It's okay for us to be hurt. We've lost a friend. He kissed my forehead and I reveled in the safeness I felt at his touch. It was strange. He was the most dangerous person to be involved with, but I only felt truly safe when I was in his arms. His face stayed buried in my hair, his hand holding the back of my neck so I was tucked tightly into him. His scent was all around me and I knew that with one false move, I'd get caught up in him. Especially since I was having a moment of weakness with Tyler's untimely demise. I loosened my grip that was around his waist and he got the hint. Backing away slowly, I told him, I have to get to work. You're not going to work. You were extremely sick all day yesterday and, he didn't finish, he knew he wasn't going to win. Bella, I'll take care of you if you stay at home today. You won't have to lift a finger while I'm here, I promise. I'll stay if you need me. I offered but he shook his head. I'll be fine. I am fine. I only care about you. It comforted me knowing he was going to be here for me if I needed him, but if I stayed in the apartment all day with nothing to do but be looked after, I would have made myself even more depressed thinking about Tyler's death while I sat around being waited on hand and foot. I can't, Edward. I appreciate it, I really do. But I need to get out of the house and Lauren must have forgotten to tell Kate I was sick. I have to go in and make sure I don't get fired. I shrugged, as if it was no big deal. Like Tyler's death didn't freak me out or that Lauren wasn't bothering me, because I really didn't want to worry him when he had so much on his plate already. But I'd never been a good liar. You don't have to hide from me. I want to help. He promised. Thank you. I leaned up to kiss his cheek. I really have to go to work though. You're welcome to come back, you know, if you want to, later. All right. He smiled at my awkwardness. I'll drop you to work and I'll pick you up later, then we'll come back here and drink to Tyler. Of course you'll be drinking ginger ale because I don't want you sick again. I agreed and got dressed for the day. The drive to work consisted of him telling me if I needed him to come get me, he'd be there in a flash. Then me telling him to relax, that I was only going to work and that I'd last the day without having an emotional breakdown. I surprised him. When hopping out of the car, by giving him a warm hug and telling him I was glad he was around to help me. The goofy grin on his face showed he appreciated the gesture. Look who decided to show up, Lauren sneered as I walked into the office. You don't seem so sick to me. You remembered, I asked sarcastically. So what? You decided not to tell mommy because you're jealous that I'll get some attention. Grow up and get a life, Lauren. I sighed, not even having the effort to smile at her shocked face as I walked to my desk and plunked down in my seat. That was incredible, feisty even. Looks like this new job will work out all right after all. A deep voice commented over my cubicle wall. A blonde mop of hair appeared over it, a pair of hazel eyes to match. The guy was young still, maybe in his late 20s, and he was sort of attractive, but he was no Edward in the looks department. His only flaws were that he was really skinny and fragile looking, like if you touched him he'd just break in your hands. I'm new here, only started yesterday. My name is Riley Beers. How's it going? He held his out and I took it carefully. Nope, not breaking, strong grip too. Bella Swan. Nice to meet you, Riley. How's the day treating you? Better than my first day went, I hope. It's going averagely. The people here are real nice, but that one, he pointed to Lauren, has been following me around like a lost puppy since I started. Might get a stick in case she starts humping my leg. Riley was actually funny and seemed a nice enough guy. Okay, well, if you wouldn't mind, could you possibly sharpen the stick before you start jabbing it at her? I teased and he chuckled. I will. It'll kill two birds with one stone. Yeah, it would make my life a whole lot easier. Well, I have to get to work now. Great talking to you. I waved and he sat back in his cubicle. I wondered where Shelley had gone since Riley was there instead. She'd been a nice woman who'd regularly chatted with me in the mornings. Had she retired? When can I do that? Bella, an annoyed voice called. Kate wants you in her office. Shit, I called Lauren. I swear to God, I called her. I told her that I had that stomach bug that was going around and she said, "That's gross, Swan, we don't want your germs," and then she hung up. I told a very annoyed looking Kate. Why on earth would Lauren do that? Because she hates me and has been making my life here a living hell since I started. I blurted out and mentally kicked myself. Now tell her that you think her little angel's fake boobs look like pointy, plastic triangles. You know what, Isabella, if you had a problem you should have come to me about it. Now as soon as there's trouble, you're blaming Lauren. Excuse me if I find it a bit far-fetched. Kate was getting even more pissed and I could see where this was heading. Unemployment, here I come. You know what? Fine, I'm done working my ass off for this agency. Mrs. Griffith, there's no point fighting you on this because I can't beat nepotism. With that I stood up and marched out of her office, going back to my desk to collect my things. What the fuck was Lauren's problem? Why couldn't she act like a normal person and talk about me behind my back, if she didn't like me? Going somewhere, Swan, her delighted nasally voice asked. If you want to fight Lauren, you're about to get one. I warned her as she sat with her fat ass perched on my desk, filing her nails as she spoke. Was I the only fucking one seeing this? Don't make me laugh. What the fuck do you have against me? I growled, partly because I was curious and also because if I didn't change the subject away from kicking her ass, that was where it was most likely going to end up. You want to know? She questioned rhetorically. You think you're so great after being in your tiny office in a shitty little agency. You think you can just waltz in here and have everything handed to you on a silver fucking platter. You think you can take what I have because you're so pretty with your long brown hair, big brown eyes and hotshot boyfriend. Well, you're not. You're nothing but a slut with a big fucking mouth who doesn't know her place. She screamed, her face going red with rage. I was about to jump on her and rip off her fake nose when a voice stopped me. I think I've heard enough. Kate's voice said from behind us and Lauren's eyes widened. Riley stood beside Kate with a shit-eating grin on his face and I was so glad I befriended that guy. He winked and I threw him a grateful smile. Thank you for whoever let me make a friend in Riley. Mom, she provoked me. Lauren stammered but Kate stopped her. She smiled warmly and sauntered over to Lauren who was trying to act innocent. Kate's hands cupped Lauren's face gently as she kissed her forehand. Slowly, she loosened her grip and in the sweetest of voices, said, "Pack up your shit and don't step a foot in my agency again, Lauren." I smiled brighter than I ever had before as Kate begged my forgiveness and told me to take 2 days paid leave for all the shit Lauren put me through. I didn't want to use them yet, so I figured I'd save them for a rainy day. If I hadn't been depressed and freaked out over Tyler, I probably would have laughed my ass off at the sight of Lauren bawling on the floor. That night, to celebrate Lauren getting fired, Edward and I rented a movie. I know dream big, it was only 20 minutes in and Edward was out cold. I watched him instead of the movie that was playing on the screen. I knew it was creepy to watch someone while they slept, but he looked so at peace and innocent that I couldn't stop myself. His eyes were closed and although his captivating emeralds couldn't pull me in, I still felt drawn to him. His mouth was open slightly and light snores were escaping him. It was beautiful. He was beautiful. Suddenly, his body began to quiver and his expression contorted into what could only be described as a look of pain. "Don't," he begged, his voice fearful. "Bella, I'm here." His eyes shot open and he sprung up, taking me with him, securely tightened, in his muscular arms. "Bella, are you okay? Where is he?" he panted as his head spun around to scope out the place. "Can't breathe," I choked out and he loosened his grip with an, "Oh shit." When he'd calmed down enough, I continued, "I'm fine. You had a nightmare, that's all." His shoulders sagged in relief as he sunk down into the couch. "Sorry," he mumbled, his cheeks up to the tips of his ears turning red. "It was sort of adorable." "Don't worry about it." I pretended to turn my attention back to the television screen, but I kept sneaking glances at Edward. He still looked tense, not like he had when he was having his nightmare, but still pretty tense. "Are you okay?" His eyes widened as he looked at me. I'd obviously ripped him from his thoughts. "Yeah, He stopped abruptly. "Can I ask you a question?" "Shoot," I told him and he gulped. "If I was any less of a man, would you still have me?" I didn't understand what he meant by less of a man. Was he talking about drugs or his mental health? That's a bit too cryptic. "I don't understand what you mean." "I mean that, if something happened that I was ashamed of, maybe even a little bit scared of, would you still want me?" "Ashamed and scared?" I was thinking this was a drugs thing again. "Did you slip up and use again?" I asked. A look of horror came onto his face. No, nothing like that. I haven't slipped since the wedding." I let out a relieved sigh followed by an exasperated one. Another mystery to Edward Cullen. I was sick of the secrets. But if I was honest, I was in too deep to back out now because I was sure he was worth it. I think I'd known all along. "Edward, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I have faith that when you're ready, you'll tell me. I already accept you, no matter what you've done or failed to do." I assured him and he nodded. A small smile lit up his face and he took my hand and placed it in his. "I don't deserve you. You're too good a person for someone like me, but I'm thanking whoever the hell is up there that they decided to let me be with you." I knew Edward wasn't entirely a good person because of his past. However, it was moments like these when I could see the good in him shine through. I knew all he wanted in this world was me and I was pretty sure he loved me to the fullest. Alice's words rang in my mind. "You have to either surrender and forget about Edward or call a truce and let him." I was so done fighting. "I'm promoting you." "Promoting? I can date you now?" he asked with excitement laced in his words. "Whoa, slow down there, cowboy. You've now been promoted to best friend. That means this is your time to woo me and show me why I think we should take it to the next level." I could see the wheels in his head spinning as he thought of ways he could go about wooing me. "I'll give you a tip though, nothing ridiculously expensive," I warned and his bottom lip jutted out. God, I wanted to kiss that lip. "But, no buts, nothing expensive." "Fine, nothing too expensive," he agreed reluctantly. "But you better prepare yourself to be thoroughly wooed." "Woo away." I smiled and it didn't escape that my notice that my hand was still in his. I wasn't going to do anything about it though, it felt too good a feeling to ruin. "Angela," I waved as she smiled and darted over to me, locking me in a bear hug that could give Emmett a run for his money. It seemed like forever since we both sat down to lunch in the glass house. "I'm so sorry I haven't seen you in forever. It's just Ben's been keeping me so busy and I know I've been a really shitty friend to you and you've every right to hate me," she rambled and I silenced her. "Shut up, Angela. I'm happy you're happy," I told her, because I really was. "So, where's Loverboy today and how did you manage to free yourself from the bedroom?" I teased and her cheeks reddened. He's at home well, his apartment. She corrected when I raised an eyebrow. I've never felt like this, like my whole world is centered around him and only him. I love it. He's the one for me, Bella, I'm sure of it. Holy shit, I blurted out as she produced a rock on her finger. I blinked twice to see if I was imagining things, and when the diamond was still there, I looked to her in awe. She had only known the guy for like what, 5, maybe 6 months, and they were getting married. Angela, are you sure? I mean, you hardly know him and marriage is a big thing. This was crazy. Angela always thought things through thoroughly, from what coffee she was getting to what shoes she would wear for the day. Why the fuck would she decide to be so reckless with one of the biggest decisions of her life? I'd felt the way she was feeling once upon a time, and I think I was starting to feel it again. But even when Edward was the center of my universe and asked me to marry him, I kept a level head and told him we were too young to commit. Where was the non-impulsive Angela gone? Believe me, I know everything about him. I've met his parents and family. His grandmother is the sweetest woman. Plus, it's not like we're getting married tomorrow, we're going to have a long engagement. The way we see it is that there's no point in waiting around for something that's going to happen sooner or later. I want to start my life with Ben. When you know, you know. She shrugged. She fucking shrugged. I couldn't say anything. She had rendered me speechless. What do you think? She asked, squirming in her seat under my gaze. I think you're both fucking insane. Her face fell, but I continued, but I'm so happy for you. I'm glad you found the one, Ang. She jumped me then and we discussed the usual wedding things. They really hadn't planned anything yet. She just knew they'd get married in a year or two and then move closer to Ben's parents' home because Angela's parents lived in Turkey and they wanted to be near family. How are things with Edward? She inquired, and I remembered that morning when I went into the kitchen. Who are you and what have you done with Edward? There were pancakes, sausages, bacon, muffins and fruit. The list was positively endless. He'd made enough to feed an army rather than just the two of us. Shut it, Swan. Sit and eat, please. He ordered with a smirk as he cleaned the frying pan in the sink. Here, let me do that, I offered, and he gave me a don't try me look. I shrugged and sat down, happily munching on the bacon he graciously made for me. I moaned as soon as it went in my mouth. I'd been eating toast and porridge for the past 2 days because of my illness. So eating greasy, mouth-watering bacon was like a mouthgasm. So good. A loud clang filled the room. I looked to Edward and noticed his eyes were dark with lust and he had all but abandoned the pan in the sink, hence the banging noise. I smirked, noticing the effect I was having on him. So good in my mouth. I breathed, in my best porn star voice because I felt the need to torture him. Want a taste? I asked seductively, holding out the bacon. He groaned, turning back to the sink. You're killing me. Things with Edward. Yeah, they're going good. I smirked and she raised an eyebrow. Did he tell you what was going on with him? I hated lying to her. But it was either that or betray Edward, and that was not an option. Yeah, it was only about some stuff he did in Chicago. Nothing big though. Oh, I thought it was something big by the way he dragged it out. Didn't you say Emmett wouldn't even tell you what was going on? I mean, if it was nothing, why wouldn't he just tell you and not make you worry so much? I don't know. I shrugged, hoping she would drop it. You can tell me, Bella. Why would Emmett not tell you? What's the story? Come on, spill. Suddenly this was turning into an inquisition. Angela, not to be rude, but it's really none of your business. I told you it's nothing. Can't you just believe me? I asked in a soft voice because I'd only gotten out of a fight with Rose. I didn't want to start another one with Angela. Of course, sorry, I'm crying. I'll let it go. She smiled and thankfully dropped it. We continued on with our lunch as normal, but after the whole questioning thing, everything Angela said seemed to be a bit of an act. She was agreeing with everything I was saying, when I knew she was against it. Also, she was being strangely sweet, trying to get on my good side. I wasn't angry though, so I wondered what was going on with her. Was she hiding something? What is it with people and secrets? 7 years earlier. Do you think that things between us will change much when we get married? Alice says it won't, but how could she know? She's not even married. I told Edward and he looked at me with a raised brow. Are you getting cold feet? No, I assured him. They're toasty warm. I am curious about what you think though. For the bad. No, nothing will change. We'll be the same Edward and Bella, only you'll have a different last name. He smiled at me, leaning over and nibbling my earlobe. But something that will change for the good. We'll probably be even more in love than before. He always knew how to make me feel better, like no matter what happened we'd get through it together. Hand in hand, husband and wife. I love you. I love you too, Bella. So much. What do you think I should go with, sexy kitten or sexy sailor? Diego asked, as he held the two costumes in his hands. Why a kitten is sexy, I will never know. What does it matter? Halloween was 2 days ago. Why are you only buying a costume now? He laughed loudly and looked at me with an amused expression. Oh sweet, naive and innocent, Bella. They're on sale and I have a sexy, Spanish, beast of a man to go home to, and satisfy. My cheeks brightened, only making Diego laugh harder. He had to learn what TMI meant. Bella, relax, I'm fucking with you. My office is having our Halloween party later than usual this year. You're such a jerk. I shouted but couldn't stop the giggle that came from me. I had to admit, he got me good with that one. Don't be mad, mi chica hermosa. You're just so easy to fuck with. That better not have a double meaning, I joked, causing him to chuckle. Sweetheart, if I didn't play for the other team, you would have been on your back a long time ago, he laughed and I hit him in the stomach playfully. He was pretty hot, but Edward was hotter. Keep telling yourself that, I told him and pushed Henry's stroller down the aisle as Diego followed. Alice had taken Evelyn to the bathroom, so Diego and I were looking after him. Thankfully Henry had no idea what we were saying to each other, because if his first words were sexy Spaniard, I was blaming Diego. As we came to the counter, a woman, in her 40s with bright red hair, peered over the desk to look at Henry. He is just the cutest thing. You and your husband must be so proud, she commented, looking at both Diego and me. I was about to correct her when he cut me off. Yeah, we're so proud. Aren't we, honey? Amusement was written all over his face. My wife Bella and I, he said while he wrapped his arm around my waist and pulled me to him, have never been happier. Well, come to think of it, there was this one other time when she sucked my Okay, that's enough. Pay the woman. I cut him off. Thankfully he couldn't say anything else through his laughter. Once we were out of the store I smacked the shit out of him. That was so not funny. That was hilarious, he managed to get out as he clutched his stomach. Alice is going to be pissed when I tell her you used her son as a prop. But you will not tell her because I'm your new bestie and you love me. Plus last time you saw me, I stopped you from driving when you were wasted. Being pulled over by your dad would have probably ruined your night. Shit, he had me there. You suck, you know that. And I'm oh so good at it, darling, he purred. We went to find Alice and weren't shocked when we found her in another store beside the bathrooms. Mommy, I still gotta go. Evelyn moaned, bouncing up and down on the spot. Evelyn, I told you 1 second. I dropped my phone in here and I have to find it. But mommy, the look on Alice's face told me she was close to breaking point. Her lips were pressed into a tight line and her face was going red with rage. I figured it was best to get Evelyn out of there as soon as possible. Diego, you look for Alice's phone with her. I'll bring Evelyn to the bathroom. Okay, I asked with a smile. Then I took the 6-year-old's hand and we made our way to the bathrooms. When Evelyn was done relieving herself, she made her way out to me. Aunt Bella, she asked, although with the way she said her L's it sounded like, Biwa. What is it, sweetie? Are you and Uncle Eddie going to get married and have lots of pretty babies? That threw me for a loop. I don't really know, Munchkin. Her bottom lip jutted out. Uncle Eddie said the same thing. What now? She'd asked Edward whether or not he wanted to marry me again. I shuddered at the thought of marriage. It wasn't something I took lightly in the first place thanks to my parents' divorce. Then considering my own divorce, the whole prospect of doing it again, especially with my ex-husband, terrified me. What did Uncle Edward say? I questioned, stopping so we could talk. I just told you. I mean, what exactly did he say? He said, I love Aunt Bella but I don't know if we'll ever get married or have pretty babies because I hurted her. Is that true? Did Uncle Eddie hurted you? She asked, her bottom lip quivering. How to tell a little girl in a way that won't scare her? He did, sweetie. But it was a long time ago. Before you were even born. Uncle Edward made a big mistake. Like, remember when you broke Mommy's favorite necklace, the one her grandma gave her before she died? The little girl nodded with sad eyes. He hurt me like that. A little crease came onto her brow. But Mommy forgave me for breaking it. Why won't you forgive Uncle Eddie? The kid was either a genius or was being put up to this. Because Uncle Edward did something worse than break my necklace. Like a million times worse. What did he do? Steal you crayons. Toby Ryan did that to me in school, she said with a tiny scowl on her cute little face. I'll tell you when you're older, Munchkin. Right now we got to go save Mommy's phone. I began walking again and she bounced alongside me. Well, I think you should get married because my daddy says without any bad people in the world there wouldn't be any good people. Okay. Definitely a genius. Alice and Jasper sure did an amazing job with this one. I'll keep that in mind. I promised, and, with that, she skipped off back to her mom. The doorbell rang at 8 p.m. on the dot. Edward was always so punctual and organized. I had no idea how he did it. I was always late and sloppy when it came to organization. They do say opposites attract. I'm coming, I yelled, running for the door. Hello. Edward smirked before peering around behind me. Sorry, I didn't wake the baby, did I? What baby? I asked, totally confused. His smirk only seemed to grow. You know, your son, Henry. If you don't remember, why don't you ask your Spanish husband, Diego? How the hell did he find out about that? My cheeks reddened for a moment, but then I thought, well, if he was going to fuck with me, I was going to do it right back. Hold on, I'll get Diego, he's in the shower right now. His face fell, his eyes went wide and his mouth was agape. I laughed so hard, I nearly died. Very funny, Swan, he nodded and stepped around my hunched over form. That was priceless. You should have seen your face, I teased. He plopped down on the couch as I closed the front door. Yeah, whatever. So, what movie are we watching tonight? I don't know. I shrugged as I sat down beside him. It's your choice, since I nearly scared you to death. What, you mean me? He asked, feigning shock. For the first time since I met you, I, Edward Cullen, get to choose the movie. Shit, I would have brought my camera had I known. I laughed because he was a dork and his bad acing was sort of funny. And maybe because he was the tiniest bit cute. Shut up or I'll pick it. I warned, and he chuckled before grabbing 300 and sliding it into the DVD player. So what was the deal with you and Diego today? He asked, trying to make it sound casual. However, I could hear the curiosity and jealousy in his voice. Nothing. He was only kidding around and he dragged me and Henry into it. How did you find out anyway? Maggie is my mom's friend. She saw you in her store in the mall and was telling me about your new husband. She was also telling me how I should find a girl since you've moved on. To say I was confused was an understatement. Suddenly I felt bad that I hadn't told him Diego was gay. It seemed bitchy now, that he was telling me every secret he had and I was purposely keeping them from him for fun. Diego's gay, by the way. I would never do that to you. So, I don't know why you did it to me. By the pained look on Edward's face, he was thinking it too. His breathing became shaky and he looked to me with tear-filled eyes. I didn't mean it like that. I rushed out, but he ignored me. I'm ready now. Ready for what? I asked. To tell you the truth. To say what I told you I was working on saying. He took a deep breath. Promise me something first, Bella. Promise me you meant what you said about not caring if I was less of a man. I knew he said he would tell me when he was ready. But judging by how he was shaking, it seemed like whatever he was going to say was really serious. I promise, I whispered, afraid of what he was going to say next and terrified it would ruin us. God, Edward, you're shaking, are you okay? He ignored me and started to speak. Do you remember when I said I wasn't with anyone after you left me? Yes, I replied hesitantly. Tears spilled out the side of his eyes. It wasn't only because I felt I would betray you. It was because I was fucking terrified to be with anyone but you in that way again. I still am. His breathing was frantic and I could see he was trying to control it. Edward, I don't understand, I started, but he cut me off. Do you remember the day I took my stuff from the house? I asked if you would let me explain to you why I did it. Bella, I lied to you that day. I thought you would be disgusted with me if you found out. That you would think I was pathetic because I couldn't even." He broke down, his head in his hands as he sobbed. I rubbed his back soothingly, not knowing what else to do. "I could never, ever, think that about you," I assured him, and before I even noticed, the tears began to flow from my eyes too. "No one knows but Dr. Garandy, and you can't tell anyone, Bella." I won't. I bawled, totally terrified, even though he had yet to tell me what was going on. "I'm here, Edward. I won't tell anyone. I love you," I blurted out, and my eyes widened at my own confession. He lifted his head, his eyes were puffy and his nose red. With quivering lips and a frightened look in his eyes, he told me what really happened. She raped me. No greater. I couldn't maintain doing this. The guilt was ingesting at me, and it most effective got worse every time I picked up the phone and lied to Bella about running late once more. She became my lifestyles, and all I wanted became to give her the whole thing I had promised her: a pleasing domestic, a pleasing vehicle, first-rate garments. What about a loyal husband, you dick? My mind screamed at me. It become my fault that I was on this mess. While Irina came inquiring for sex, I have to have said no and make up my fucking job proper then and there before she even had time to react. I failed to even though. Instead I attempted to avoid her, however it failed to assist something. She nevertheless. I didn't even need to think about it. Slouching over my table, I ran my fingers through my unruly hair, pulling at my scalp simply to experience the ache. I was a fucker for lying, and for the makeup months, I had attempted to justify what I was doing. I used to be trying to tell myself, if I did not do it, I would get fired and we would lose the entirety. Bella could get harm and she or he would hate me for failing her. It became Irina's word against mine. Bella changed into bound to observe subsequently that I did not simply work nights. However, I knew I was wrong to try to justify sleeping with some other lady, irrespective of what the scenario can be. The alternative night were an actual eye-opener. I had come domestic from work and Bella wasn't there. The first idea that ran via my mind became, fuck, she is aware of. She's long gone. The idea of Bella leaving made me sense fucking ill. I couldn't stay without her. An existence without Bella might be meaningless. The primary element I did, after I might calm down, became run to our bedroom. I sighed in comfort after I saw all Bella's clothes still smartly arranged within the cloth wardrobe. That meant if she had left me, she might want to come back returned for her stuff ultimately. I called her mobile, just in case, and changed into so satisfied whilst she picked makeup. I noticed, however, that there was something off in her voice. Her tone wasn't as heat because it generally become greater whole of direction. When I requested her what changed into wrong, she stated, I simply were given an makeup setting makeup name in paintings, it's all. When I asked if she changed into okay, she informed me curtly that she become excellent and would be staying with Rosalie till she figured something out. However, that changed into all I got out of her. At the beginning I idea, maybe she's pregnant and is concerned that I can't provide for her and our child. Become she deliberating casting off the child. If there even became one, it'd be sudden, but I may be an amazing father if it become Bella's toddler. Or of root, it is able to be a worse situation, she should have found out about my indiscretions. My heart started to overcome furiously in opposition to my chest and my frame began to shake. Had she found out, turned into that why she had sounded so unusual at the telephone. I failed to sleep the whole night because of my fears, and it became then that I knew, for certain, what my subsequent step changed into. I wanted to tell Tanya that whatever she changed into playing it needed to make up. That irrespective of what she had on me, I loved my wife and she or he turned into the entirety to me. I needed out of the scenario. Eddie, infant, Tanya purred, ripping me from my mind as she stood within the doorway of my office. You appearance demanding. Why do not we? She sauntered over to me and twisted her manicured nails in my hair. Her contact became repulsive and it made me shudder in disgust whilst she whispered, relieve it. She craned her head down and whispered how badly she me. I lost it whilst her tongue traced over the shell of my ear. Sufficient, Tanya, this has to stop, I asserted, jumping out of my seat. I cannot hold fucking around like this simply because your daddy is a person critical. I've a spouse and I like her. I'm no longer right here in your entertainment. I might not have you ruin what I've worked so hard for. Please, simply go. Marching over to the door, I held it open for her to show I make up what I stated. Before everything she appeared bowled over, like she couldn't accept as true with I had man makeup and attempted to kick her out. But then her expression grew to become amused and she or he honestly had the gall to throw her head again and snigger, like I had advised the sector's fucking funniest joke. Do you truly think you have got any power over me? She requested, her hysterics sooner or later over. Eddie, I fucking own you. If I say fuck me in this table, you ask how hard. Due to the fact if you don't, I'd by chance inform wifey all approximately the mission you have been doing for the ultimate 8 months. Who knows, maybe Irina may slip makeup too. Complain. Fucking whorish slut bitch, I may want to sue you for sexual harassment, now not to mention what Irina did. I threatened, hoping she turned into as dumb as she looked. Luck, apparently, wasn't on my side. Please Edward, as if you can touch my father or Arrow. They recognize every judge in the nation. You wouldn't stand a threat in opposition to them or me. Especially because you'd been fucking Irina willingly, hadn't you? Tanya requested, her voice sickly candy and her expression harmless. We both realize what happened. I spat at her and her eyes narrowed. In case you're not inclined, I will take matters into my own arms, just like Irina did. A shiver ran through me at the mention of her sister. Between that and the threat of Tanya telling Bella, no, I could not allow that show make makeup. Look, Tanya, I am begging you. I can't lose my spouse. I love her a lot and I cannot maintain stabbing her in the again. I'll even cease my job. Please don't tell her and do not do this with me anymore. I begged as a last-ditch attempt. Lifestyle's as difficult, she started and I knew then that she did not have a respectable bone in her frame. She got here over to me and played with my tie, whilst I refused to observe her. Who knew, maybe I would flip to stone if I did. And once in a while you have to suck it as much as defend individuals who you like. The reality hurts and for Bella, it might sting like a motherfucker. You do not want her to get harm, right? I failed to say something. I refused to have a look at, or even answer that deranged wench. Answer me, Tanya ordered but I still stated nothing, or maybe I will pick out makeup the smartphone and ask Bella. No, I shouted and he or she smiled wickedly. No, I do not want to hurt Bella. Then bend me over that table and fuck me, Edward. No, Tanya, I may not do it, I started but she cut me off. Do not forget what came about final time you refused, Edward. Irina, no I cannot. Bella's anticipating me and I'm now not that kind of man or woman. I instructed her as she attempted pulling me to her, using my tie as leverage. Irina, I shouted and pushed her away when she saved persisting. She stumbled returned however did not fall. I should cross. I went to make a run for the door. Are you saying no to me? She requested, her nostrils flared and her eyes staring daggers into me. I stopped useless in my tracks. You may do this Edward the First chanted to myself fuck something Arrow threatened. Sure. I am announcing no. Now and for all time. I am a married guy. Irina regarded to be greatly surprised into silence and I took that as my possibility to get out. I reached for the door and proper as I felt the cold metallic of the cope with on my skin, something fucking tough clattered in opposition to the lower back of my skull and that I sunk into darkness. My head pounded and my eyes were blurry as I make up. As I started to advantage awareness, I observed I used to be sitting in my workplace chair. The belt I were sporting that day turned into fixed around one in every of my wrists and my tie on the other, both of them securing me to the chair. Fuck, I muttered to myself as I attempted to break free, all to no avail. I fucking knew Irina was an insane complaint, however this became a whole new degree. Help me, I roared, praying to God that there have been still humans within the constructing. A person please fucking assist me. After I heard no respond, my query have been replied. There was no person right here to store me. Would you stop screaming? You have a nasty bump to your head, sincerely so as to simplest make the pain worse. Irina said sweetly as she sauntered inside the room. Irina, permit me go I am sorry, okay simply untie me and we will communicate. I lied, due to the fact the moment she untied me I used to be fucking long past. Do you certainly think I am that naive? To be sincere, I don't know what the fuck you are. I spat, anger surging through me. leaving the panic I used to be feeling a moment ago aside for the moment. My words need to have pissed her off due to the fact she was evident difficult. Eddie, you're fucking fortunate that you're pretty and that that spouse of yours might search for you if you went missing. Due to the fact if now not, you would be lifeless by now. Every other wave of fear went via me. Became she going to kill me? The terrible component became that she had the electricity to do it and break out with it. I didn't care about demise all that a whole lot. I just needed to recognize for positive Bella might be okay without me. Open, Irina ordered and thrust a tablet at the entrance of my mouth. I clamped my mouth close and became my head far from her, a pathetic closing ditch try and prevent this. She held my nose and pressured me to open, then popped regardless of the fuck it became in my mouth and rubbed my neck until I used to be forced to choke it down. There we move Edward, it wasn't that awful, turned into it. What the fuck become that? I cried, my chest heaving and my heart hammering. Mexican Viagra, Irina stated and commenced pulling down my pants and underclothes. Wah! I began however the air whooshed out of my lungs. I knew what became coming next. I was approximately to be violated. Do not worry, it'll be over quickly. No, please, Irina, no, I begged. But it was no need at all. She failed to care. A shiver ran through me and that I started out to experience ill on the notion of that occurring once more. It turned into what compelled me to sleep with Tanya while Irina left, the concern. I failed to realize how two girls ought to have make up such worry in me. I really didn't need to the touch Tanya. She become a fucking incarnation of evil and the best way I'd ever need to the touch her once more became if my arms have been round her neck, choking her to loss of life. But I couldn't lose Bella. No longer over someone as terrible as Tanya and I knew she could just as effortlessly do what her sister did to get her personal manner. When I got home, I used to be going to convince Bella that we ought to move away. Perhaps to a one-of-a-kind USA. I used to be finished with this shit. Fuck my activity. I will be a legal professional everywhere within the international. Oh Eddie, Tanya purred as I did as I used to be told. I made sure I used to be sporting safety. I might never placed Bella in that kind of hazard. I was going to vomit. She felt incorrect. It jogged my memory of Irina and that day. Do not you fucking name my name, whore. I shouted, earlier than I gripped her hair more difficult and pulled her head lower back so I could whisper, I hate you, in her ear as she whimpered in delight. No you do not. Ah yeah I'm higher than Bella as she moaned. It changed into disgusting. Oh god, how terrible have I fucking failed Bella. But I ought to in no way inform Bella approximately Irina and the way she. I couldn't even undergo to make up the word, let alone inform my wife. If I did tell Bella, she'd by no means have a look at me the equal way again and I might instead her hate me than be disgusted by way of what occurred. You're not anything as compared to Bella. I spat as I launched my grip from her hair and grabbed her hips. I desired to hurt her, like she'd been destroying me. And if she unearths out, Tanya, I started however she make-upted me. Sure she'll go away you fuck. And you may come to me. If she reveals out, I'm able to destroy you, bury you and your father. She finished and I ripped myself from her, no longer staying in her any longer than I had to. Then I went into Mr. Volturi's office and showered, wanting every hint of Tanya Denali off of me earlier than I went domestic to Bella and lied again. I had to pull over sometimes on the way domestic, thinking I was going to get unwell, and now not looking to do it in my Aston Martin. Even after showering, I felt grimy and all I desired to do turned into pass domestic and hold Bella. She made the whole thing better than tell her I did not want to stay in Forks a minute longer. What if she failed to love me sufficient due to how I would been treating her? Could she live at the back of? Might I even depart without her? I knew that solution already. Of course I would by no means leave her. My worry of losing Bella was why I desired to move inside the first vicinity. What if she will see it in me that I have been dishonest on her? She used to tell me that my eyes were the windows to my soul. What if she noticed the disappointment and remorse in them? I pulled makeup out of doors the house, feeling my stomach twist in anxiousness. Even though I wasn't make-up that she knew the reality, I just had this feeling that she was directly to me. I took a breath, got out of the automobile and made my manner inner. Bella, I am home, I bellowed as I dropped my keys and my briefcase on the table beside the door. Something was incorrect, she could have said something by way of now. Bella, I nose out and went into the residing room to see if she turned into a domestic or nonetheless at Rosalie's. When I walked into the sitting room, she wasn't there, but I heard motion in the kitchen and decided to investigate. That was when I saw the most ideal sight before me. Bella changed into wearing a tiny, tight, black corset, matching panties and garters with stockings attached. Her hair became directly, although I loved her natural curls, and her B6FD8D88D79 ED1018DF 623 DOB 49E84E7 was darkish and sexy. Her shoes were the best heels I would ever visible her put on, and I should scent the fragrance I bought her for Christmas from where I stood. She nonetheless loves me, oh, thanks God. Idea is a really vivid smile plastered onto my face. Fuck Tanya or what Irina did to me. Bella was all I had to live and be happy, and right here she become, trying me. What can we have right here? I asked, my voice deep and husky with lust. She appeared like sex on legs and that I needed her now extra than ever. She said nothing, just stood there as my eyes endured to roam her body, and I began to undo my tie, throwing it someplace as I made my way over to my horny as hell wife. All of a unexpected, she turned into simply too far away for me to endure. I grabbed her waist and pulled her to me before I started my attack on her neck. I was in a Bella brought about haze. She turned into the handiest aspect on my thoughts as I kissed makeup her neck to her mouth. I could odor her mouth-watering scent and taste her skin on my lips. I began entering into it. I pulled away my healthy jacket and breathed, Bella, I really like you, into her neck, as she writhed in opposition to me. I was going to worship her when we made love from now on. Each time would be about her. I had to do it this way, because of what I would finished. Whether she knew the reality or no longer. She was so stunning, and that I hadn't found out I had said it out loud till she moaned her way to me. I couldn't wait any further. I needed to see what splendor was underneath this corset, to say her once more as my own. My Bella. My palms went to the return of her corset and my lips failed to even ruin contact with her neck. I couldn't untie it though, and it was pissing me off. Make up silly double knot. Ah, do you want this? Bella requested, her voice so fucking sexy. You haven't any idea. I attempted to mention, however it got here out sounding bizarre due to my respiratory. Why won't this knot simply fucking open? If I did not get it undone in minutes, I was just going to reduce it off of her frame. Not anything was going to get in the way of me being with Bella once more. Inform me how a great deal you want me. I want you so fucking badly, I instructed her truly. How did she fucking tie this component? Inform me. Wow, Bella in no way spoke like this earlier than. I surely appreciated it though. I need you like I want air to breath. I need you like a demise character wishes medication, Bella. I rushed out and bit down on her neck. Nevertheless, this knot, I am surely about to get a knife. Tell me then, Edward, became she really worth it? No, 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 no. Holy shit, that is only a bad dream. Maybe you may make up. I opened and closed my eyes, willing this picture to go away, but it by no means did. This was actual and Bella knew. I froze, my stomach churned and the blood drained from my face. I failed to flow up to observe her, hoping perhaps I would heard her incorrect. That perhaps she hadn't uttered the 4 words that would wreck my lifestyles. That would take her away from me. What? I stuttered, however still didn't make any motion. Please do not let this be taking place to me. I can't fucking lose her, oh God. I make up I'm having a panic attack. I asked you if she changed into worth it. You understand, the horror need to I say horrors since you had makeup of them when you were running late, failed to you darling. Her voice become dripping with sweetness, and that scared me the maximum, that she had organized for this. She knew about Irina too, however how plenty exactly. Had Tanya informed her? Oh no, fuck, motherfucker, she turned into going to go away me, I would not be able to live to tell the tale. I slowly moved my head makeup so I should examine her. Her head was tilted and her expression changed into composed and apparently unaffected. How long had she acknowledged? Or maybe this changed into how Bella reacted to main harm. I began to freak out. My coronary heart bounced in my chest. My legs threatened to collapse and the sweat began to pour from me. I knew if I gave in and blacked out, I might make up to an empty house and divorce papers. It turned into not anything. They have been nothing. I do not even realize why I did it. I lied due to the fact I knew why I did it. However, if I instructed her that it changed into due to the fact I was afraid, she would honestly go away me. If she stayed, I would provide her the whole thing and work to regain the man I used to be. She turned into all I wanted. My Bella. She began to walk away from me, but I wasn't approximately to let her cross. This could not be going on. No, no, Bella, please listen. I really like you and we are able to restoration this. I attempted, but she saved walking. She went into our bedroom, slipped on a long coat, and I almost died after I noticed all of her baggage packed and prepared to go. She changed into makeup to depart me. Oh, expensive. Jesus, no, do not leave me, I begged as tears poured from my eyes. I will let you know something you want to understand, and I will never betray you once more. Don't leave me, Bella. She turned into ignoring me. I grabbed her arm in a pathetic try to make her live. I was determined and would do anything to maintain her. She swung around and in a single movement, ripped her hand from me. She slapped me across the face with such pressure that I was sure I would sense the sting for the relaxation of my life. I blanked for a moment and best snapped lower back into what became happening when she screamed, "Your words suggest shit to me now." I knew she was right, however I used to be determined and shook my head stubbornly. Talk to me, I entreated as my whole frame trembled, and greater swells of liquid ran down my cheeks. I do not want you to move. I'll do whatever. Simply communicate to me. Question me something. I do not know why I informed her to invite me questions. She wasn't going to get the truth. No longer telling her changed into the least I ought to do. She became irritated, and the remaining issue she might want to experience become embarrassment because her husband could not protect himself against two girls. Bella gave the impression of she turned into makeup to kill me and that I didn't blame her. I deserved it on such a lot of tears, but I refused to offer in. I could not tell her the reality, even though I knew Bella and I belonged collectively. First rate, she spat and that I ought to pay attention, the venom laced in her words. What number of have been there? My legs subsequently caved in on me and that I collapsed in opposition to the wall. I had in no way cried as a great deal as I did at that second. This became genuinely killing me, although I knew I deserved a long way extra hurt than even this. I had to answer her though. I spoke, disgrace seeping into my words. Irina and Tanya. Bella's lip quivered and he or she seemed away, preserving her aspects as though she had been holding herself together. Whilst she had composed herself after a second, she asked, "Did you like them? One in every of them or each of them?" In no way. I may want to in no way love everybody like I really like Bella. No, I roared at her. I handiest ever cherished you. She checked out me disbelievingly, which turned into possibly the worst hit she could have given me. She did not consider I cared. I knew I might given her reason to doubt me, however seeing it written on her face turned into a shot through my heart. Her face turned from disbelief to fury in a count of seconds. All at once there was a vase flying through the air. Then why did you fucking do it? She screamed as it smashed in opposition to the wall. I gave you the entirety, for 5 years, Edward. 5 years of direction. When Alice called and stated she saw you and a few bitch going into a motel together, I advised your sister. Oh no. Edward would not do this to me. He loves me. In the meantime, I sat at home on my own whilst you labored nights. What fucking attorney works nights? Fuck me. Alice saw Tanya and me collectively. This is how Bella discovered out. That turned into 4 days ago, although, so Bella had recognized all along. That is why she becomes staying at Rosalie's. She ought to simply hate me. My complete family in all likelihood knew too. Now I was in trouble with Bella and I would be disowned through them too. Make makeup. I am sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, please do not depart me, Bella. I want you. I'm not anything without you. Please don't move, I begged on my knees. Bella turned into silent and that I knew that her subsequent sentence would both complete me or kill me. Edward, I cherished you a lot, she started out, and that I shut my eyes. Cherished, she cherished me, past worrying. It became like I was taking a knife within the intestine and every word she stated become twisting it, until I writhed in suffering. Don't say it. Please, do not. I may not make it without you. Let me repair this. I started out, but she reduced me off. I'm achieved. I need a divorce, and in your sake, Edward, I hope she changed into worth it. You've got simply lost everything. Then she became gone. She become gone and absolutely correct, my everything just walked out the door. Alice, I manipulate to choke out through my tears while my sister replied the cell phone. I failed to get to say something else earlier than she commenced tearing me aside together with her words. How dare you call me? You cheating guy whore fucker. I hate your guts for what you probably did to Bella. She is my best friend, your fucking spouse, Edward. You selfish prick. Do you understand how she fucking knew for positive you had been cheating? Bella was waiting a good way to come home whilst you referred to us and said, oh, I'm running right now. Yeah, you were working all right, operating on a few slut. I really want to. I used to be a sobbing mess as her voice were given quieter and there was a shuffling noise at the telephone. Edward, Jasper spoke, intercepting the smartphone. I could nonetheless listen Alice screaming inside the Heritage. Alice is pregnant. She would not need this proper now. I referred to as Emmett and he's going to take you on your mother and father, residence. Do no longer do something make makeup, he warned and I laughed bitterly. What, do you suspect I am suicidal? I requested and he took a breath before answering. You simply fucked make up your complete existence. I wouldn't be surprised if you were. He responded simply, his voice become full of hostility. There has been no doubt he hated me as a lot as Alice did. And I deserved it. Don't worry Jasper. Due to the fact you understand what. This isn't always the make-up. I'll get her returned ultimately. I'll do whatever I must after which we will be a family once more. I know we are able to. I said, looking to maintain myself as make-up is viable. Jasper didn't say whatever. Ought to be because he idea I used to be speak me nonsense. Unnecessary to say, that made me indignant. I threw the phone across the room and curled makeup right into a ball in the corner. I was hoping if I stayed nonetheless I might turn out to be a part of the darkened room till Bella got here returned to me. Edward, Emmett's frantic voice yelled as he slammed through the front door. Edward, where in the fuck are you? Do not do whatever makeup, it is no longer the end of the sector. Yes, it's far, I whispered robotically as I stared blankly at a niche at the ground. Emmett came in and whilst he spotted me at the ground, he threw his head returned and muttered a prayer. What? Anticipating to locate me placing from the curtain rail. I snapped at him, my voice ice bloodless and razor sharp. I failed to rule it out, he answered softly, as he sat down beside me and positioned his hand on my again. I'm just glad you're K, Ed. I'm not K. I am not going to be fucking K again until I've her again with me. Why'd you do it then? I suggest, you loved Bella greater than whatever. I failed to even recognize you were having troubles. Oh amazing, more guilt. I wondered if you can die from a damaged coronary heart. You understand that already, because if you could, Bella would have died 4 days ago. The idea of Bella lifeless made my heart clench painfully, so I made a mental notice in no way to think about that once more. That's just it. The entirety became fucking best. We were so in love. We had sex nearly every night time and I was completely insatiable whilst it came to her. It's over because I'm a fuck makeup who ruined the maximum ideal factor he's ever had. I grumbled, annoyed with myself for no longer being more potent. Emmett shook his head and closed his eyes earlier than muttering, you are an idiot. I know. Extra tears spilled from my eyes. I protected my palms over them, no longer looking my brother to peer me like this. I like her a lot, however she hates me, I sobbed. Emmett, who were with me through all my makeup mistakes, didn't even have it in him to consolation me. But I can Emmett, I will carry her again to me. He chuckled beneath his breath, not unless kidnapping is an option. I was approximately to rip into him and kick him out of my residence. Come on, we are going to my residence for tonight and the next day I'll take you to mother and dad's. Just go away me on my own Emmett. I'm not going anywhere. I advised him, eliminating my fingers from my face. I don't trust you on my own like this and when dad and mom discover what you probably did, you are genuinely going to want me there, in case they kill you. Now make UP makeup. Emmett become proper. Mothers and fathers had been going to kill me. They loved Bella almost as lots as I did. I did not make O's makeup I ought to bear searching on the unhappiness of their eyes for the rest of my lifestyles as properly. But I had to maintain telling myself that this wasn't the makeup. I was confident I'd in the end persuade Bella that I might be a higher individual and deserving of her love. I knew I should make her keep in mind that I wasn't going to be an idiot once more. perhaps even inform her the reality at some point. The fact turned into a scary thought and Bella's remaining words saved ringing in my head. In your sake, Edward, I'm hoping she changed into really worth it. You've just misplaced the whole thing. Bella, I whimpered, it wasn't well worth it. Not anything is worth losing you. At some point you may know the truth. I will be better, I swear. Edward, Emmett puzzled, coming out of my bedroom with a number of my garments in his palms. Have been you talking to yourself? No, I responded as I stood as much as help him percent my lifestyles away. I do not forget him announcing the words, but after that I don't recollect a great deal of something else. My whole thoughts went clean and my frame froze as I stared at his terrified and sobbing shape. Raped. Irina had raped him. He'd instructed me. I knew I needed to know extra about what passed off before I did something, however I couldn't forestall the irritated emotions that had been welling up interior me, ready to burst through the surface. I wanted to scream at him for the lies he'd been feeding me. If he became telling the truth now, it'd make up he hadn't confided in me about the worst element that had ever happened to him. I didn't recognize what harm worse, the fact it befell inside the first vicinity or that he hid it from me. Oh God, you hate me. Fuck no, I must have known this will make up. He bawled, hiding his face in his arms and rocking backward and forward. I desired to comfort him and tell him he become wrong, however I wasn't sure I ought to speak or locate it in me to tell him I wasn't mad. I should not have told you. I need to have kept my fucking mouth shut and taken it to the grave with me. He was so incorrect. Oh God, I don't think he turned into even talking to me anymore, deciding on rather to berate himself. Why you had been what? I finally managed to choke out, a sob breaking through me as I were given to the remaining word. What the fuck, Edward? Why are you simplest telling me this now? I screamed, status makeup and crossing the room to get a long way among us. I best currently found the desire to admit it to myself. You are the maximum important individual in my lifestyles. Could you consider being in my shoes? To must admit on your partner, no longer simplest turned into my dignity, my masculinity and my fucking sanity taken from me. However, that I failed you as a husband as properly. Could you believe how difficult it is for me to confess that? I'm your husband, divorce or now not, it is my job to protect you. I couldn't even protect myself from that fucking whore, not to mention protect you, Bella. I'm a humiliation. Edward turned into shouting now as greater tears streamed down his face and his fingers tore at his hair. My entire frame became shaking and I couldn't manipulate my respiratory. I could not believe he became telling me this now, after 2 years of being divorced. However, I found out we were not getting everywhere shouting at every other, regardless of how plenty anger I was feeling. That really would not assist. Okay, we need to make up. Sit down with me and we will take a few breaths together. Then we'll speak approximately this flippantly. I walked over to take his hand and sat down beside him. Simply breathe. I whispered, and we each took deep breaths collectively. It took some time, but whilst we have been completed, my respiratory had nearly lower back to ordinary and my heart wasn't as frantic. However, Edward's complete frame changed into nevertheless trembling. I rubbed his lower back soothingly, reminding myself that regardless of what I used to be feeling, this changed into really extra tough for him. I certainly turned into torn between anger and issue. Anymore, we need to each agree that we might not shout. We want to paintings together so as to talk about this. I said, more to myself than to him. I promise. Edward dithered. In which ought we start? I certainly had no clue. Became he surely ready to speak about this without breaking down? I did not make up. I could manage it if he did. You stated simplest. Dr. Garandy knows this, so your own family doesn't, I said, because it wasn't a question. I failed to even want to inform him. It took him months to get me to confess it to myself. You had been the only cause I ultimately tried. But, I am accomplished hiding things from you. I need to be the person I once was in the handiest manner. I'll be like that again as that if I have you again. You entire me, Bella. I heard what he changed into announcing, but I used to be having problem computing it. I make up. I used to be nevertheless in shock. But for him to make up, I'd ever blame him for that became past me. I might never recognize male delight. How may want to he be so dim? I do not, nor will I ever blame you for something Irina did to you. Phrases cannot specific how sorry I am for what occurred to you. But, in case you count on me to try to circulate past this, we need to speak approximately it. Please, Start from the very beginning, from when it all befell, and no bullshit this time. I cannot address any more bullshit from you. He looked at me, his brow knitting in confusion. He looked so misplaced. You do not blame me. Bella, I am the only at fault right here. She raped me, but nonetheless, after that, I cheated on you. How should he say that? In what global ought to that probably make sense, Edward? Because she best did it, as soon as he yelled, status makeup off his chair as though it'd assist get his factor across. I participated willingly after that, because I used to be apprehensive. I stood makeup too, so I could investigate his raging eyes, filled to the brim with regret. Make up and begin from the very beginning. Even the bits I know, I asserted in a sturdy voice, and his eyes softened, as if to mention I am sorry for shouting. I stated nothing in return and waited for him to move on. Arrow hired a secretary for me due to the fact I was make up too much paintings. That secretary turned into Tanya, whose sister changed into Irina. They got here from a totally effective family, Russian mob effective. Their own family changed into so powerful that they had every authentic and judge sitting in their wallet expecting an possibility to rise make makeup whilst they could come to be useful. If the Denalis ordered a person to be killed, that character turned into dead and nobody asked any questions, for worry they could be next. Arrow just so happens to be Tanya's godfather. Her father, Kaas, is Arrow's appropriate buddy and largest patron. However, I knew nothing of any of this until Irina began making advances. His voice turned into void of any emotion. As I listened, I commenced to experience more anger on the thought of him maintaining this from me. It became a prime blow to me. I would have helped him get via it, although we did not have a hope in hell of setting the ones bitches at the back of bars or in a grave. Irina saved coming on to me, and at the beginning it became simplest small things. Like she might contact my neck or question me if I labored out. It made me uncomfortable, so I went to Arrow. I figured there was no factor in suing a 19-year antique girl for sexual harassment. So I told Arrow how she was making me feel. He essentially told me to sell myself to her as it became in my exceptional interest, and that he became best telling me this because I was like a son to him. He told me her father became a very effective man who wasn't always at the right facet of the law. Then he ushered me out of his workplace and warned me now not to go Irina, considering she did not take care of rejection properly. I did not take Arrow's warning seriously, but I knew there has been no manner I was going to lose my activity, thinking about we were simply starting to get lower back on our featuring. So I advised myself that if I started ignoring her and made it clean to her that I wasn't that type of individual, she might eventually back down. I had satisfied myself that it became a makeup overwhelm she had on me and she or he could get over it. I was very incorrect. The manner he stated the remaining sentence made me shiver. It was a regular sufficient scenario, although he couldn't possibly have recognized what he changed into getting himself into. She became only a younger woman, slightly out of school, looking to get lucky with an older guy in her sister's workplace, someone forbidden to her. Everyone in Edward's role might have felt awkward and they could have filed a complaint, but it wasn't something you stop your job over, especially whilst you were having cash issues first of all. That day, Tanya left to move home, and that I notion Irina had long gone together with her. She got here to my office though and became looking to coax me into dozing with her. I sternly informed her that I would by no means do this to my spouse, and I pushed her off me. He took a deep breath and laughed bitterly. Arrow changed into right. She definitely didn't cope with rejection properly. How did she? I trailed off, not capable to say the words. Edward closed his eyes and took my hand in his, conserving it tightly as though it became his lifeline. I consider attaining for the door cope with while something tough hit me in the back of the head. I used to be out cold, and after I make up, she'd used my belt and my necktie to secure me to my workplace chair. I used to be screaming for someone to assist me, praying to God that there were still human beings in the workplace. However, we were the only ones left. I blurted out the first issue that went through my mind without questioning. She should have killed you. His hand squeezed a touch tighter. I thought she became going to. I used to be scared, greater so you'd be on my own. However, I'd never felt such fear in my whole lifestyles. That insignificant, 19-year antique fucking toddler had made me sense fear like no different, and I was ashamed that I wasn't stronger. It made me unwell to make Uppo's makeup that I was going to die at the hands of that spoiled brat while you sat at home, awaiting me. My coronary heart ached. I felt sick too, contemplating Irina and the horrible matters she did. But the worst thing was, I couldn't even take into account if he were exclusive coming home after what occurred that night or the days that observed. To me not anything have been out of the everyday in my perfect lifestyles. I could not even take into account a time when I highly concept something's makeup with Edward. That turned into because I didn't be aware. I am so sorry, I bawled, crushed with guilt for not taking any hobby in his life due to the fact I was too fed on in mine. I must have observed. I used to be so busy with paintings and being returned on our toes that I failed to even take some time to step out of my bubble of happiness and notice what you had been going through. I was crying into his neck and it felt incorrect that he was comforting me when it must have been the other way round. Do not you dare, Bella, he growled. Do not you dare take the blame for this. This is my fault. I failed you. How could you have got acknowledged? With that last sentence, I used to be lower back to rage. Due to the fact I was your wife and I must have known. Posing makeup I didn't be aware, you ought to have fucking instructed me. I shouted, dropping it and seeking to shrink back, however he wouldn't allow me. He stored me tight towards him, rocking from side to side, till I surrendered to the secure haven of his embody. My feelings are genuinely screwed makeup. I'm sorry. I was makeup and I nonetheless am. When it came about, my head was anywhere, like I said. Irina took my sanity. Dr. Garandy said it's everyday, considering the amount of trauma I went through. However I understand it's simply due to the fact I'm a fuck makeup. I used to be convinced that what she did to me changed into something no person need to pay attention, that it becomes shameful and I wasn't a man anymore because of it. That not telling you was the least I may want to do. You are incorrect. The least you may have performed became instructed me the truth and now not misinformed me for the second time. Due to the fact that I now recognize you lied to me returned on the residence about what occurred as properly. He gulped and took a minute to compose himself before he whispered, I recognize that now. I am hoping I'm not too late though. I did not reply right away. I wasn't sure I may want to say in that moment what he wanted to hear. I make up we want to keep going. I want to realize the whole thing. He nodded however took a while to keep. I moved away from him but nevertheless saved a firm grip on his hand, understanding that he took as tons comfort in my touch as I did in his. After she raped me I went to Arrow and told him what took place. He became irritated with me for refusing her. He stated I used to be like a son to him but while she assaulted me, all he ought to think about become losing her fucking father's paychecks. He roared. I might in no way visible him so indignant. He had so much pent makeup anger. Edward, make up. Have a look at me. I ordered and he did so without hesitation. I understand it's difficult but you need to be calm. I'm sorry. I will attempt more difficult. He murmured and then paused for a second before continuing. I advised him I was going to the police and he said that if I did I was as proper as useless and they'd you. He was choking on his words and tears welled in his eyes. That they had hurt me too. I guessed and he seemed away. Worse. It took a minute however I understood what he changed into announcing. They wouldn't simply leave it at killing me immediately. They had do to me what Irina did to Edward, and then they had kill me, if best to make a factor. Oh, was my reaction. I advised him I was accomplished. I used to be leaving, taking you with me and by no means coming again. He told me I could take you as a long way as I favored but there was no area Irina would not find me and that she wouldn't want most effective my body after that, she'd need revenge. He stated it'd be my word against hers that I used to be having an affair. He made me believe that one slip with Irina should price me you. And I would in no way take that massive of a danger. No, I disagreed. You selected to take a larger danger. I found out you have been dishonest on me when I noticed you along with your tongue down Tanya's throat in Port Angeles. How will you say you did not take a danger? I didn't want to do it. I needed to make makeup in her can help you go and that I knew I could not lose you. I thought Tanya become nothing like her sister however she turned into worse. Tanya became formidable and impulsive. She also had twice the amount of stuff on me that Irina did. No longer handiest did I have Irina's words towards mine however then I had Tanya's as well. I used to be in too deep due to the fact I panicked while making the right desire was critical. I was quiet after he spoke, not certain what to reply with. So, He persisted. I would already attempted to stop it while you found out, but it became all to no avail. When I misplaced you, I felt I do not even recognize a way to give an explanation for it. However, I would not desire it on every body. You left and that I walked into that constructing and, having not anything left to lose, I destroyed mine and Tanya's office. I threw fixtures around and yelled at her. She became so scared and that I loved that I could make her sense like I had felt. Tanya tried telling me that she cherished me and that now my wife was long gone we might be collectively. He laughed bitterly once more, but this time it wasn't just a small snicker, it was full-on hysterics. She genuinely conceived that I had feelings, other than hatred, for her. I recognize, I said, interrupting his laughter. He stopped and gave me a quizzical look. I advised you that I saw her in Eric and Ben's club. Erica's relationship her and he didn't realize about our beyond while he brought us. It turned into clean, she became jealous and I performed on it. Played on it. I stated loads of nasty things and that I actually experience no remorse now that I understand the truth. Not as if I felt any guilt when I did not recognize the reality either. We sat there collectively and that makeup his phrases had been sooner or later sinking in. I were given the main elements of what he was announcing, however he nevertheless left me with a question unanswered. In case you trashed your workplace and did not pay attention to what Arrow stated, then why in the hell changed into he your lawyer for the divorce? I requested, since I noticeably do not forget Arrow being present while Edward got here to the listening to under the influence of alcohol. He smirked crookedly. I was leaving, no person had any hold over me anymore. Tanya claimed to like me and did not need me killed, so that left Arrow with the job of preserving me silent. Therefore, he became there to ensure I stated not anything that could incriminate him or the Denali's. It regarded as even though he become finished explaining now and I used to be nonetheless very angry that he'd given me a very distinct model of activities. I used to be feeling so many one-of-a-kind emotions and that I didn't understand what to do about them. For one, I wanted to scream and rant at him for the whole lot he'd put me through, after which kick him the fuck out. Then the other, I wanted to hug him, kiss him, promise that it'd be higher and that now he doesn't must fear approximately losing me because I belong to him so absolutely. I was so fucked. Can I ask you something? Edward stated, ripping me from my thoughts. I nodded in return. Could you have believed me if I would been honest with you in the first region? Or maybe afterwards, whilst we had been going through the divorce? His query threw me for a loop. Despite the fact that 2 years turned into best a quick time in the past, I used to be a completely specific person then. I was naive and I sincerely conceived the arena revolved around Edward and the appropriate little international I would created for myself. I hated him for ruining the whole lot I thought become all I wanted. So might I've given him the benefit of the doubt? I don't know, I responded certainly. I'd surely not have believed you when we had been inside the technique of getting the divorce. I had too much hate for you and there is no point in saying in case you had advised me the fact, we'd be perfect right now, due to the fact we'll never know. However, I do not begrudge you for that anymore, no longer like I used to. For me, the time aside became needed, it showed me how much I took as a right. His eyes were nevertheless packed with unshed tears and a mild trace of terror. I really like you. Although I would blurted it out in advance, earlier than I even realized I had carried out it, I nevertheless felt conflicted. I really like you too. However, it doesn't exchange the factor we're at proper now. I advised him and that I may want to see his face contort in pain. Don't misunderstand me. I'm now not embarrassed nor do I makeup you failed me in any manner. You probably did not anything incorrect and whether or not it's now or 50 years from now, that whinge is going to pay dearly for what she's done. Now what? You've said you adore me, so be with me. I'm able to provide you with the entirety you provide to me, if you'd simplest allow me, he began, but I reduce him off. You still lied to me. You must have confided in me as your spouse and I understand that you went via annoying revel in and that's sure to have an impact on a person. But how do I know you're ready for this again? Did you even speak to Dr. Garandy approximately us being together? If I used to be honest, I used to be hiding at the back of an imaginary defend again, combating him on this. I don't know why I used to be making makeup excuses. Makeup it was just my herbal instinct for the reason that he harmed me, to pull away from a probable danger. This is not approximately my mental health at all, Bella. He stated, his functions smooth and information. You're scared. I desired, with each fiber of my being, to tell him he became wrong. I wanted to scream and shout at him that he didn't get to make accusations like that after I might listen to him express regret about all of the lies he had fed me. However, I couldn't. He turned into proper. I used to be terrified. We will move slowly. He stood up to kiss my forehead. I'll wait all the time if I should. And I'll do something you need me to. I promised and go back. If he desired, I'd be his shoulder to cry on, and I'd do my very best to guide make up him something way I may want to. I needed to place apart my anger if I desired to assist him. Do you suspect it would be an excellent idea if I came alongside to a number of your appointments with Dr. Garandy? You will do this? He questioned. Sure. I might do it for you. So, Riley trailed off as I sat at my desk the following morning. I'd gotten near no sleep due to the fact all I may want to think about turned into Edward and what he'd long gone through. Needless to say, I was in zombie mode. What? I asked, not genuinely inside the mood to speak. I were given you 2 days off from work and that bitch fired, and all you say is, what? Right here I thought I used to be your hero, oh properly. He sighed dramatically and it got me to smirk in my zombie-like nation. Sorry, Riley. Thanks a lot for tattling to Kate. I owe you massive time. Something you need is yours, my knight in shining armor. Rattling proper I'm. As to the problem of you owing me, fair maiden, he introduced with a wink earlier than persevering with. I request a night time of whining and eating you. This Saturday. What do you say? Anywhere you need to move, and in case you're fortunate, we're going to make up the check. He joked. Way to make it awkward. As plenty as I'd love to, I have a thing happening right now with a person else. His face showed unhappiness for a second, however he shrugged it off, as if it turned into no large deal. I apprehend. I will simply have to be your best pal in preference to your soulmate. Yeah, bet you're stuck with that. I rolled my eyes. Be warned, although, if he would not treat you right, I'll kill him. I know karate, kung fu, and plenty of other very risky phrases, he joked, and that I could not prevent the smile that spread on my face. I will make sure to warn him. Do not you overlook and now, since you became me down, consequently breaking my coronary heart in two, I will assist you to take me to lunch. Well, since I did shatter your coronary heart, it's the least I will do. We joked round like that for the day, and it changed into precise to have someone who failed to understand the whole Edward Bella drama fest we had taking place. It made me sense regular again, and for some time it becomes sort of great. However, did I need to be normal again if it's makeup dropping Edward? I knew the answer already. Never. I loved Edward Cullen. I knew it now more than ever. Even with the horrible things he had done and the horrible things that had happened to him, I was completely and irrevocably in love with him. But I was only human. A damaged one, at that. For the sake of my sanity, I decided I needed to have an Edward-free day before I dove back into things with him. I'd only spoken to him a few times since he came clean about the rape, however I made it clear to him that I held him accountable for nothing that Irina or Tanya did. The more I thought about it, the more I realized he was just scared. But I needed this. We needed a day apart to sort ourselves out. Well, I did anyway before I had a mental breakdown. Are you freaking out because of what I told you? Edward asked when I told him over the phone, Friday night, that I needed more time. I'm not freaking out, I swear I'm not. It's just that I feel like I've already taken in all I can handle for 1 week, but I know if I just take a breather for a while I'll be better able to take on the world again. If you're having second thoughts, he started, obviously ignoring all I said. I'm not having second thoughts. It's okay if you are. Edward, I'm not. I know it's a lot to handle, and believe me. Edward, stop interrupting me. After everything I said, I wouldn't be surprised if you were. That is a lot for one person to handle. Will you stop? And I already hurt you so much, so. I'm serious, stop talking. I understand if I'm not good enough. With his last sentence I flipped my lid. I fucking love you, so will you please shut up and let me talk, Edward? Silence. That must have been the angriest way anyone had ever professed their love to someone else. And after I had exploded at him, it was dead silent for a long time. It was starting to feel awkward, and I did the only other thing I could think of. I resorted to humor. Wow. So that's what it takes to get you to shut up. Shouting I love you, I teased with a meek laugh. He still said nothing. So awkward. Do you mean that? He whispered. Why would he even ask that? Of course I did. I mean, I'd already told him I loved him twice before. The first time was right before he told me about Irina, and the other was afterwards when we were discussing things. It wasn't that big of a revelation, after all. Or maybe my love for him had more impact now. Of course I mean it, Edward. He was silent again for a while and it was making me nervous. What was up with him? I was worried that he might suddenly realize he doesn't want me anymore. Edward, I asked, and I heard him clear his voice on the end of the receiver. I love you too, so much, he started in a shaky voice. Was he crying? And I'll give you more time or whatever else you need. I'll give you anything if it'll help. Again with heavy talk. This was exactly why we need a day apart. I don't want you to misconstrue this. I love you, I'm willing to admit it, but I don't think I'm ready yet to lay all my cards on the table with you. I still don't trust you completely. But I know I will if I can get my mind in order and have time to think. Like I said, he quoted me. I'll wait. Forever if I have to. You won't have to wait forever. I only need a couple of days. I whispered, not feeling as uncomfortable as I used to feel when talking about this kind of stuff with him. Regardless, I'll be here whenever you're ready. We said goodnight then and he told me to call him when I wanted to see him again. I was happy he was being mature about this and understanding that it was what I needed. But then again, I shouldn't have been surprised. Edward had always been caring. Tears streamed my little chubby cheeks as I looked at my smushed and melting ice cream on the pavement. My mama was going to get angry, I knew that for sure, because I had to beg her to let me have one. Now it was gone and I was ice cream-less again. Edward was by the swings and his mommy was busy chatting with my mama and fussing over Alice's new dress. He spotted me crying and his little brow furrowed in the middle of his head. He ran to me then, as fast as his little 6-year-old legs would take him. I envied him with his bright blue bubblegum ice cream still intact. Why are you sad, Biwa? He asked as I watched a blob of ice cream on his nose drip down onto his mouth. I dropped my ice cream and mama will get mad. I sniffed as I used my sleeve to wipe my drippy nose. His bottom lip jutted out and it looked as if he was going to cry too. We can share mine if you want, he offered, holding out his runny ice cream for me to take. Gross. I'll get boy cooties, I shrieked, shaking my head in disgust at the thought of sharing an ice cream with a boy. Yuck. Nah. I takes a bath every night and my daddy teached me how to brush my teeth all by myself, he stated with a proud grin and showed me his gummy mouth. He was missing 4 teeth in the front and Alice said that Edward got money from a fairy for losing his teeth. I wanted mine to fall out too, but my daddy said it would happen when I got older. So you don't got cooties? I asked because his ice cream did look really yummy. Nope. He smiled and I took it hesitantly from him. I licked it quickly, then checked to see if I was turning into a boy. When I didn't, we sat side by side in the playground sharing the ice cream until it was all gone. Stop thinking about him, I scolded myself as I sat down on the couch and turned on another season of the OC. I was on the bit where Ryan and Marissa were finally doing it. Edward and I did it on the beach one time. It was sort of hard to maneuver in the back of his Mustang, but awesome nonetheless. I remembered how he pulled me onto his lap and we made out for a good hour until we basically started dry humping each other. Then we were faced with a challenge. Should we do it in the Mustang or go back to my dorm, where his sister and her boyfriend were no doubt getting it on? Needless to say, the Mustang got christened that night. Stop it, I warned myself as I squirmed in my seat as I felt the waterworks going on down there. Maybe it was time for some self-loving. I spent the next day in denial. It's not just a river in Egypt, you know, Alice said in an annoying tone when I told her I didn't miss Edward. We'd gone shopping to make me forget about him and have me time, but I'd see a green shirt in a store and I'd automatically be comparing it to his eyes, or I'd see a suit and automatically think how good he would look in it. Edward Cullen was taking over my mind. When Alice realized I wouldn't be coming out of my sullen mood anytime soon, we decided to call it a day and head back home. Jasper had the kids by himself and I wanted to go home and wallow. You really miss him, don't you? Alice asked and I avoided her eyes, looking at the floor of the car as she drove. Yeah, I mumbled, and then blurted out what had been playing on my mind since I met up with her that morning. I love him, Alice. Her sudden intake of breath caused me to look at her shocked features. I didn't reply because there was no way I was taking back what I said. That would not only be betraying Edward by lying to his only sister after telling him I meant it, but it would also be betraying myself and what I stood for. If I wasn't going to defend what we were working to build, then what was the point of even trying? You love him, she questioned, and I nodded, keeping eye contact at all times. Are you sure? She added in a pleading voice as if she was begging me to reconsider my answer. I thought you wanted us to be together, Alice. You said you would support me no matter what. I know, but Bella, I'm still scared for you. He hurt you so badly and I knew this was coming, but now it's here, she trailed off with a worried expression. I understood what she was saying. She knew this would have happened whether she supported our relationship or not. But now that the time, where I gave myself to him and trusted him again, was here, she was beyond scared for me. I had to make her see that I wasn't scared anymore. Do you remember on my wedding day, Alice? When I was freaking out because I thought I was going to trip down the aisle or say the wrong line in front of all those people. Do you remember what you told me? I asked, and she nodded with tear-filled eyes as she pulled the car over to look at me. I told you that you marrying my brother was a part of fate's plan. It was always meant to be. That no matter what happens, even if you tripped walking down the aisle, or set the place on fire, at the end of the day you'd be starting your life with Edward. No matter what. I told you that you belonged with him. She cried and I had to fight hard to keep my own tears away. I was so scared that day. I knew it was coming, but I still wasn't prepared to walk down that aisle, until I spoke to you and you reminded me of why I was there. You were right, Alice, I belong with him. I knew it when he asked me to marry him, and I know it now when he told me he'd wait forever for me. Edward and I both made mistakes, but I believe it's fate's plan that we be together. If I didn't, I would have given up a while ago. She cried harder. However, this time it was with happiness. She unlocked her seat belt and hugged me tighter than she ever had before as she cried into my neck, and I hugged her tiny frame right back. After Alice dropped me home and I started wallowing, I began to curse myself for needing the day away from Edward. I did sort myself out a bit by spending the day with Alice and getting things off my chest. But still, it wasn't worth the sadness I felt when he wasn't around. Edward made me happy. I fell asleep on the couch at around 8:30, tired from yet another emotionally draining day. I dreamed some more of my childhood, this time about the days I had spent with Alice. Her dressing me up like I was one of her Barbie dolls, or her modeling her new princess dress Esme had made for her. My phone rang out beside me, causing me to jump awake. Hello, I answered, a bit groggily. Bella, a velvety voice asked, a bit hesitantly. A smile immediately lit my face and I felt instantly happier, just hearing the sound of his voice. Edward, I greeted him, smiling brightly into the phone. What's up? Did I really just say, what's up? Kill me now. I wanted to see what you were doing. Did you miss me? I teased. I assume you did since you're breaking the no contact rule. Well, technically I'm allowed speak to you now since you called me on Friday night at 8. Now it's Saturday at 9. He paused before adding, and yeah, I really missed you today. My conversation with Alice spurred me on. I missed you too, I told him, in the strongest voice I could manage. It was ridiculous how good I felt saying those 4 words to him, knowing I was certain about us now. So are you busy? Could I come over if you're not? I smiled wickedly at the thought that ran through my mind. That depends. On what? He asked, a slight trace of fear in his words. I'm only on my first disc of the OC. Think you could handle watching some more with me? He hated most of the shows I watched. The OC and Sex and the City were his least favorites. I think our tastes in TV shows and movies were one of the only things we didn't have in common. He sighed but agreed. I'll be there. Oh, and Bella, yeah, I love you. And just like that, he set my heart aflame. You don't have to do this, Bella, Edward told me for the millionth time, and I sighed in response. I know I don't, but I want to. Do you not want me here? Of course I want you here. You don't know how much this means to me that you're willing to do this. I only wanted to be sure you didn't feel like you had to be here. I took his hand in mine and held it. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. He took a breath and squeezed my hand. Dr. Garandy's secretary, Gianna, came out to the waiting area. The doctor will see you now. She spoke in a sultry voice, for Edward's benefit no doubt. His eyes didn't stray from me, though, and for that I was glad. The office we were led into was incredible. It looked a lot like Carlyle's study, except this was more modern and had an almost carefree atmosphere. The white walls had colorful art on it by several different artists. Since the room was on the bottom floor, glass doors opened to a small patio area, filled almost to the brim with flowers and exotic-looking trees. "Edward, good to see you again. This is Bella, I presume?" Dr. Garandy asked, holding his hand out for me to shake. The doctor looked to be mid-50s or early 60s, and was a bit overweight. Even in his youth he probably wasn't the best-looking person, but I noticed, as we shook hands, that he seemed to exude professionalism. "Yes, nice to meet you, doctor," I replied. "Please, call me Oliver," he said as we took our seats. Edward and I sat on a large lavender couch while Doc Oliver sat on a single couch in front of us. Before we begin, we have to remember that what is said in this office, stays in this office. If there's something said here that you do not like, and it doesn't get resolved by the end of the session, we can't hold it against one another. Also, this is a judge-free zone and you can say whatever you feel you need to say. I nodded my head in acceptance and we began. "Now, I'm aware Bella knows about the incidents that led to your separation, but for now, until we settle ourselves into a routine and are comfortable, we are going to focus on lighter subjects." "Agreed," Oliver asked, and Edward and I both nodded in acceptance again. "Great. So, Edward, tell us about last Saturday. You said that you and Bella were having a day apart from each other. How did that go for you?" Edward cleared his throat. "I didn't like it. I missed her. When we're apart, it reminds me of before we decided to try again. When I remember that time in my life, I get depressed." "So what you're saying is that, being away from Bella reminds you of when you didn't have her? Of a very dark period in your life?" "Yes, but we all know just being away from Bella wasn't my most difficult challenge, that was only part of it." Edward smiled bitterly. It was weird talking to someone else who knew everything about what Edward had gone through. Since he told me about the rape, we discussed it very little. So having Oliver ask these questions was kind of unsettling. "Indeed, but you're here together now. Do you think the time away from each other had a positive outcome for you?" Oliver questioned. Edward shrugged. "It made me realize how much I miss her when she's not with me. I guess I forgot since we've seen each other almost every day since we decided to try again." "Okay," Oliver said as if that was the answer he was looking for. "And you, Bella, how was your Saturday?" I took a breath, knowing I couldn't say it was fine and have him go back to questioning Edward. I meant it when I said I wanted to do things right. It sucked, to be quite honest. I missed Edward, a lot. Alice took my shopping to cheer me up, but everything reminded me of him. Eventually Alice gave up trying to make me happy again and I ended up going home to wallow." "You didn't tell me that," Edward whispered as he looked at me with shining eyes. "You didn't really ask." I shrugged. "So, you missed Edward and Edward missed you. Since you were the one who requested time apart, do you feel it helped you figure anything out?" Oliver asked as he scribbled furiously onto his notepad. "Yes, I had a talk with Alice about everything. I realized Edward made me happier than I thought he did and that." I stopped suddenly, feeling the words get caught in my throat. "What?" Oliver and Edward asked at the same time. That I really do love him and that there's no point fighting the inevitable when I know we belong together." I rushed out and Oliver smiled, while Edward looked at me in shock. "Well," Oliver clapped his hands together. "Now we're getting somewhere. Is there anything new in the Edward department?" Angela asked as we spoke over the phone one night. She had become increasingly interested in my love life all of a sudden and it was making me uncomfortable. She kept trying to pump me for information about Edward. Then when I told her, in no uncertain terms, that it wasn't any of her business, she would back off. I had a weird feeling though. "No," I answered curtly, pissed that she kept bringing it up. It wasn't as if she was taking a friendly interest, it was like she was digging for something. "Why do you ask?" "Oh, you know, Ben and I are out of the honeymoon stage of our relationship, so I have to live vicariously through you until we get married." "Another 2 years of this?" "Right," I said, disbelievingly, noticing Edward's car parking outside. "I have to go, Angela, Edward's here." I'll talk to you soon, okay? I want all the gossip later. She squealed, which was something I had never heard her do before, and then she hung up the phone. I began to wonder if Angela was changing because of Ben. Was he shaping her to be his model fiancé or something? Edward walked in the door and gave me a friendly hug, making me forget all about the new ever-changing Angela. Hello, he smiled into my hair as we embraced. I missed you. We had been to see Oliver again earlier in the week, and in that session he asked us about our fondest memories together. To me it felt like marriage counseling rather than therapy. But I had to admit, it was helping us. Even though at the start of the sessions, it had been difficult for me. I loved Edward, but I was having some trouble getting over him deceiving me about Irina raping him. Oliver helped me put it into perspective, for the most part, and it was becoming easier now. More like breathing. Edward and I went back to normal, laughing and joking, teasing and occasionally flirting. We went to the movies and hung out with Alice and Jasper like a typical couple, although we weren't really a couple since I hadn't promoted him yet. Still, it was awesome. You saw me last night. It was still too long. He murmured into my hair and I felt him place a light kiss on my head. He was getting to be too sweet for his own good. I missed you too. You have no idea how good that sounds to me, he said, pulling away only to greet me with a relieved smile. I raised an eyebrow at him. I like knowing you feel the same way. Dork. I teased and snuggled back down into his chest. He squeezed my sides, where he knew I was extremely ticklish, and I squirmed. I'm sorry. I have a surprise, he whispered suddenly into my ear, causing me to shiver. Turn around and close your eyes. I eyed him for a moment but turned around, curious and nervous at the same time. I could feel his breath whooshing onto the back of my neck, his body pressed flush against mine and his nose skimming my shoulder, inhaling my scent. My breathing picked up and my body became alert. He was so close. Don't open your eyes or turn around until I tell you to. Or what? I challenged him and I could feel him chuckling behind me. A finger skimmed the curve of my neck and trailed down onto my shoulder, leaving goosebumps on my body. Although it felt as if his touch was setting me aflame rather than making me chilly. Slowly, he leaned into me, or I'll bite you. Either fuck me or kill me now, Edward. I knew I shouldn't have allowed it, because friends certainly did not act this way with each other. But I was having too much fun flirting with him to care. I don't know how he did it with just 4 words, but I was beyond turned on. Okay, I squeaked out and kept my eyes shut, trying to grasp onto the last shred of control I had left. Okay, he repeated with a smirk. I felt something cold and solid on my chest as his fingers moved to the back of my neck and hooked something. Open your eyes. I opened my eyes and, immediately, a glint of silver caught my attention. A locket. It was by far the most unique locket I'd ever seen, but that made it all the more beautiful to me. It was in a heart shape, but the front of the heart was covered by 2 feathered wings made completely of silver. It wasn't big, but it was heavy. My fingers moved to examine it further. The wings opened like doors, both of them revealing a keyhole they were hiding in the center of the heart and an inscription beside it. Only he who holds the key shall unlock my heart. Edward. I managed to get out but couldn't continue. I was speechless. I had it made for you and now seemed like a good time for you to have it. I looked for a way to get inside the heart, though it seemed like I needed the key to the lock to open it. Then I remembered the inscription, only he who holds the key shall unlock my heart. You have the key to it, don't you? I asked and a smile spread on his face. I do, he answered and his hands took mine. I know you're scared and I meant it when I said I'll wait forever for you. I gave you that locket because it symbolizes both of us together. Our hearts are one and I want you to look after mine for me, because every time I walk away from you I have to leave it behind. So when you're ready to share your heart with me, we'll come together. Then together, as one, we'll open our heart and see what's inside. Tears welled in my eyes and I couldn't even find the words to tell him how sweet he was being. Edward was such a broken man, inside and out, yet there was such goodness and love in him still. I trust you already, I told him in a low, shaky voice and he placed a small kiss on my forehead. No, you don't, he argued. What? Of course I do, I reasoned and took a step away from him. I trust you completely. You think you do, but you don't, he whispered and I was about to lose my cool when he spoke again. Bella, tell me something. If I dropped to my knees right now and asked you to quit your job, marry me and let me support you, would you? If I asked you to run away with me without a moment's notice because we're both in danger, would come with me, without a second thought? I said nothing, but kept his intense gaze. I desperately wanted to shout back that he was wrong. If I promised you right now that I would never hurt you again, would you ever doubt that? I had to look away then. It was like his eyes were burning into my soul and he could see everything I had so carefully hidden. He could find the answer I wasn't even able to say. I'm sorry, I stuttered, realizing he was right. Don't be, he whispered as he collected me again in his arms. It's okay and I'm not angry. It doesn't make me love you any less or make me see you in any other light. One day, you'll trust me and we'll open our heart together. He smiled adoringly. I love you, Bella. With those words, I crumbled. Suddenly everything played in my mind. His words were everywhere and for once I didn't try to block them out. You're something special, Bella Swan. I figured I would take the chance if it meant holding you for any length of time. Just be happy here with me. Right now, I've wanted you for forever. You could never disappoint me, Bella Swan. Whatever we do will be utterly and totally perfect just because it's you I'm doing it with. I loved him too and I was done fighting him on it. Standing on my tiptoes, I weaved my fingers into his hair and roughly pulled him to me. I love you too, I stated before I crushed my lips to his, and fireworks exploded around me. He didn't respond for a moment, possibly still shocked, but he soon kissed me back with a fiery passion that made me forget everything but him. He tasted perfect and as his tongue met mine, I couldn't stop the moan that escaped me. He was heaven on earth. I pressed my body closer to his, not wanting there to be any space between us. The thought of pulling away from him anymore hurt me to think about. He didn't seem to mind since his hands dug into my hips and brought me closer, only the layers of flimsy material separating us. Our kiss began to slow and we would stop for a breath before he would place another peck or two on my lips, then reclaim them in a frantic, needy kiss where our mouths fought for dominance. When my swollen lips began to chafe and Edward's breathing returned to normal, we stood with our foreheads pressed against one another, gazing into each other's eyes and smiling like idiots. It was perfect. You're so beautiful. He smiled and I looked away, blushing. Not so shabby yourself, I teased and he laughed in such a carefree way. Like all his problems didn't matter anymore because I was there in his arms. Oh yeah, he smiled and leaned back in to deliver another peck on the corner of my mouth. Does this mean I'm being promoted? I smiled wickedly. No, I told him and his face fell. He broke eye contact and turned away from me, obviously upset, but I quickly took his head in between my hands. But this does. My lips attacked his again and somehow we ended up on the couch, making out like two lovesick teenagers. I knew we had to slow down before things got out of hand. I pulled away slightly. You can date me now, but don't expect much. He gave a mock disgusted face. You mean you're not going to put out? Well, what am I even doing here if there's no sex? Shut up. I laughed, slapping his arm playfully before I went back to playing with the button on his shirt shyly. But if we were going to have sex in the future, would you be all right after everything? His happy mood seemed to disintegrate with my question and I panicked. I'm sorry, it's just that you were fine at the wedding, well, more than fine, actually. You were amazing at the wedding. I'm sure you could probably tell from all the screaming I was doing. But I was worried because I don't really remember much from that night. So if you freaked out, I don't remember, because you know how champagne goes straight to my head. I'm sorry if you did freak out and I didn't notice because I was too drunk or horny or maybe a mixture of both. I rambled before I decided it was better to shut the hell up. I'm fine when it's with you, he murmured. He didn't speak much after that and I felt guilty for ruining the moment and making him think about Irina. Hey, I said and he turned to me. You have me and I don't blame you for what happened. She won't dare come near you again. It's not me I'm worried about. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I can hold my own. My dad's a cop, Emmett is a bear of a man and my brother-in-law, and I have you. We'll both be fine. I'm not much use to you, Bella, he growled darkly. Stop, I ordered. Don't speak like that when you know you're wrong. You could protect me as much as anyone could and I've never doubted that. He didn't seem to believe me and there was no use arguing with him when it would get us nowhere. So I settled for changing the subject. Thank you for the necklace. The corners of his mouth tugged a little. You're welcome, he responded, although it was less cheery than I would have hoped for. It was starting to piss me off. If you're going to sit there and sulk all night, you're better off just leaving. I stomped away from him and into the kitchen. I couldn't believe we were making out 1 minute and fighting the next. I huffed as I washed the dishes angrily. I don't know who I was angrier at, me for bringing up the topic or him for doubting himself and ruining the mood. Hands suddenly wrapped around my waist, making me yelp in fright. His head buried into my neck. I stood still, not giving in because he totally killed my just made out buzz. I'm sorry for ruining everything. I should be kissing your feet right now for promoting me, and instead I'm sitting around feeling sorry for myself. Will you forgive me? He had gotten my forgiveness the moment he followed me into the kitchen, but I was stubborn by nature. We'll see, I said, and lips touched my neck. On what? He asked and continued trailing kissing up my neck. On how great you can go about wooing me on our first date. I don't know why guys hate it so much. It's so awesome, I told Riley from my desk, and he raised an eyebrow. You made your boyfriend watch 2 seasons of Sex and the City and you're telling me he didn't complain once? He either really loves you or he's gay. He's not really I was about to correct him, but I decided it didn't really matter. He's not gay, trust me. I made him watch it. Believe me when I say he hates it. I laughed and Riley looked away in defeat. Well, looks like you have Mr. Perfect already. If you're interested in another one, you know my number, he joked, and I slapped him on the arm. Right, I replied sarcastically and began getting back to work. Work was much better now that Lauren was gone. True to Kate's word, Lauren hadn't stepped foot near the office since she got fired, and for that I was glad. I had listened to her nasally voice enough to last me a lifetime. Kate was also evaluating me to see if I could be advanced in the agency. She told me sometime in the coming months she would let me off paperwork duty and let me back out showing property. Life was going well, for a change. Except the Angela thing. She was still being weird. So much so, that I opted not to go to the glass house with her anymore. I couldn't figure out what was up with her. I'd talked to Ben and did some research. He didn't seem like the type of guy to try and mold someone into his idea of perfect, so the only other explanation was that it was just Angela changing. If it was, who was I to tell her it was wrong? If I did, I would be exactly like I thought Ben was, molding her to fit my idea of how she should be, and that wasn't right. It hurt me to not have Angela in my life. But I really didn't like this new pushy version of her, and if we weren't going to get along, what was the point of trying to have a friendship? You okay, Swan? Seem pretty down all of a sudden, Riley observed as he stood behind me with a stack of papers in his hand. I plastered a smile on my face. Yeah, it's nothing. Don't worry about it, he shrugged and continued on his way. I went back to work and, thankfully, got the mountain of paperwork Kate had given me done. I got a text at around 5 from my dad saying he wanted to have dinner with me at the lodge. I hadn't seen him in a while, so I told him I'd be there. Unfortunately, Edward chose to text me about 10 minutes after I'd texted my dad back, saying that he wanted to have dinner with me also. Hello, miss me already? Edward asked when I called him. Well, I definitely didn't miss your cocky attitude. I could hear him chuckling on the other end. Good one. Thanks, it's a curse really. Anyway, I called to tell you I can't do dinner tonight. I'm going to the lodge with my dad and I miss him since you're hogging all my time up. I told him in mock anger. Crap, I knew I should have called earlier, he said, and I smirked a little. Who knew I was so popular? Tomorrow night you're coming out with me, then. It'll be a date you will never forget. Oh, and wear comfortable shoes. I'll have to check my busy schedule. I'm very in demand nowadays. Sure you are, he replied sarcastically. Kay, I have to go. I'll call you later about dinner. Love you, he cut in, and I laughed at his enthusiasm. Such a nerd. I love you too. Holding a conversation with Dad was never easy. He was a man of few words, and the only thing that really interested him was sports and fishing, 2 things I knew nothing, or cared anything, about. But after 10 years of living with him, conversation began to get easy. Until he brought up a certain subject, men. You seeing anyone lately? You had to ask the one question I was avoiding. Sorta, I answered, hoping he wouldn't ask for too much detail. I'd been avoiding telling him I was back with Edward. I knew he would freak out if I told him. He wasn't a big Edward fan after the whole cheating fiasco, and I couldn't exactly tell him Edward's secret about the rape. "How are you and Sue doing?" I asked, hoping to change the subject. "Yeah, great, that's sort of why I asked you to have dinner with me," he murmured and cleared his throat nervously. "I asked Sue, Seth and Leah to move in with me on Sunday. They said yes." "Well, color me impressed. Wow, congratulations, Dad. I'm happy for you and Sue." I smiled and his cheeks turned red. "Like father, like daughter." "Thanks, sweetheart. I'm pretty darn happy too. Anyway, enough about me. Who is this guy you're sorta seeing? I hope he's better than the last one," Charlie said as he took a chunk out of steak, and I gulped nervously, playing with my salad. I didn't know if he meant Edward or Jake, but I was hoping for the latter. "He's a great guy, the first like him a lot." I mumbled. "Do I know him?" Charlie asked. "God, why do you hate me?" "Yeah," I sighed, giving up, because he was going to find out sooner or later in a little town like Forks where gossip spread like wildfire. Plus, I felt bad for hiding things from him. "Oh?" he asked with a raised eyebrow. "Come on, you can do this, Bella." "It's Edward." Charlie's brow furrowed. "What's Edward?" he questioned, looking around him, and I smacked my head with my hand in frustration. "It's Edward Cullen. I'm seeing Edward again, Dad." His face went as white as a ghost before his eyes narrowed and his white complexion turned to red with a great bulging vein popping out on his forehead. I called it the "you're in so much fucking trouble" vein, and I'd only seen it twice before. The next thing I knew, I heard a chair scraping off the floor and Charlie was flying past me with speed I didn't even know he was capable of. "Dad, Dad," I screamed, running to him and grabbing his arm. "Stop it. Where the hell do you think you're going?" If I hadn't been so afraid that he was going to beat the shit out of Edward, I would have been so embarrassed that everyone in the restaurant was gawking at us. "I'm gonna kill that little shit. I was angry when he came over to get your key and said you were just friends. But I'm past fucking furious now, Isabella Marie Swan. How the fuck could you be dating him?" I'd never seen my dad so angry. In fact, I'd never heard him cuss before when there wasn't sports on the TV. I tried to explain that Edward had changed, but, of course, he would hear nothing of it. He ripped his arm from me and went out to the parking lot. I scrambled right after him. "What are you going to do?" "Arrest him," I spat as he got to his car. "No, I'm getting my gun and I'm going to shoot that little fucker." With that he hopped in and sped off, leaving me in total and utter shock. All I could think was, if I wasn't so terrified Charlie was going to kill Edward, I'd totally say my dad kicked ass. "What are you going to do?" "Arrest him," I spat as he got to his car. "No, I'm getting my gun and I'm going to shoot that little fucker." With that he hopped in and sped off, leaving me in overall and utter surprise. All I could think became, if I wasn't so terrified Charlie was going to kill Edward, I would totally say my dad kicked ass. "Fuck," I screamed in frustration, as I stood alone in the parking zone. My dad became going to significantly hurt Edward. In fact, I wouldn't rule out torture. Pulling out my telephone, I dialed Edward's quantity. "Hello," his voice responded. "Edward, you need to." "That is Edward." I cannot select up the phone in the meanwhile, however, in case you depart your name and range, I'll get returned to you. "No," I roared and left him a message, basically telling him to get the fuck out of Washington before my dad castrates him. Sure, I was being a bit dramatic. I known as Sue next, thinking if there has been absolutely everyone who ought to motive with my dad, it might be her. "Bella honey, slow down." She tried, however I was in an excessive amount of a panic. "He is going to kill him, Sue. You need to stop Dad before he kills my Edward." "Your Edward?" she questioned. Did I say that? Sure. I stated my Edward, and I do not provide a shit what all of us else thinks. So please, just prevent Dad before he shoots him. "Bella, sweetheart, I am so sorry." However, he ran out of right here, angry as the Satan himself, approximately 10 minutes in the past. "You assert he is going to harm Edward." "Oh dear God. That idiotic man," Sue murmured under her breath, angrily, however changed into interrupted by a noisy beeping in my ear. "I had an incoming call, please be him, please be him." I got across Sue. "Bye." I rushed out and pressed the cease call button before answering once more. "Edward," I all but screamed. "Bella, love, what is incorrect?" You called me, fucking shouting something approximately getting out of Washington, and also you did not pick out up the primary 2 times I known as. I used to be going out of my thoughts. Are you okay? In which are you? I'm coming to get you. He rushed out, and that I thanked God he spoke back before my dad got to him. Wherein are you? I am at my mother and father, domestic, Bella. Why? You are scaring me, please tell me you're okay. Edward, concentrate to me, my dad's on his manner to your home. I instructed him about us and he freaked out. He has a loaded gun and a bullet together with your call on it. You want to depart now. Edward was silent for a moment, and I used to be about to scream at him not to waste any more time when he spoke. Nicely, that explains why your father just pulled into my driveway. His voice was eerily calm, and I nearly were given unwell. Charlie turned into already there. Shit, I knew he should were freaking out, so I determined to present him words of encouragement. He won't kill you, I am hoping, he is all bark and no chew. I definitely desire. Either way, I'm about to get my ass kicked. I'll call you back. I really like you, Bella. Edward hung up. He fucking hung up. Considering Charlie had introduced me to the inn, and then left without me, I used to be stranded. It became obvious that Edward couldn't come get me, considering he changed into approximately to get the shit kicked out of him. I needed to get to Edward's as quickly as feasible, and that left me with a dilemma. I could not name Rosalie because she would be curious about Edward getting maimed by means of Charlie. I couldn't name Alice due to the fact she and the kids have been at the zoo and Jasper was working. I could not name Emmett due to the fact he would get too competitive and in all likelihood hurt my dad for hurting his little brother. I could not name Esme or Carlisle because they might in all likelihood be as indignant as Charlie in the event that they knew the entire tale. So it left me with best one alternative. Desperate instances call for desperate measures. Howdy, he responded, and that I sighed in alleviation. Riley, thanks so much. I know you have been likely busy and I am so sorry, however it is a real emergency, I swear. I instructed Riley as we sped through Forks. Riley's riding was worse than Edward's, he had a critical case of avenue rage. It is exceptional, it is fine, he assured me. I took a moment to take a look at him, he failed to seem to look excellent these days. He wasn't his standard tidy self. His faded blonde hair become in disarray and his hazel eyes had been tired searching and bloodshot. Are you okay, Riley? I inquired. Yeah, I am first class. I simply had a rough night time remaining night time. A lady I used to be seeing left me. He shrugged. Love, it turned into not anything. I am so sorry. If I would known I would not have requested whatever of you. I'm simply very so. Do not, he ordered in a darkish growl before composing himself. I hate the phrase, sorry. The relaxation of the journey with Riley were awkward, to say the least. I did not honestly know what to mention and that I don't suppose he did both. We just sat in silence till he dropped me off at the top of Edwards Road. I did give him a hug goodbye and advised him to be strong, that there has been plenty extra fish in the sea. Then like a bat out of hell, I bolted to Edward's residence. Edward, Dad, I shouted as I ran internal, terrified that I used to be too overdue and one of them was hurt. Edward, in which are you? Inside, a voice groaned, coming from the course of the kitchen. I ran via the house as fast as my legs might take me. Oh my God, I gasped at the sight of him. He hit you. Edward's face become bloodied and bruised, like I would anticipated it to be, so I don't virtually understand why I was so stunned. His eye had swollen to the scale of a golf ball and become black and blue. His nose had portions of bloodied bathroom paper caught up it and appeared broken. The anger that turned into directed at my father took over me. We have to get you to a medical institution and you want to press charges. I ordered, coming over and taking the keys to his automobile. I am now not pressing fees, Bella. Charlie will lose his process and simplest grow to be hating me extra. We cannot allow him get away with this. He is the chief of police and he attacked you, Edward. He, of each person, should understand better than that. It is going to be his personal rattling fault if he loses his task. I was undoubtedly livid. I could not accept as true with Charlie had the audacity to harm Edward in his very own domestic, and suppose he ought to simply bypass past the outcomes. But matters with Charlie must wait until later. Edward become my first precedence. Do you need anything before we visit the clinic? Yeah, I do. Can you kiss me, Then hug me and take a seat with me whilst you relax," he asked as he opened his fingers for me. They looked so good to snuggle into. "No," I said and crossed my hands over my chest so I should withstand the urge to touch him. "We want to get you to the health center. Your nose is so damaged." "Bella, please. It would not hurt that much. All I need is some TLC and I will be true to head." He smiled crookedly and I sighed, giving up and snuggling into him. "You experience good," he murmured as he held me tighter to his chest. He was making me feel calmer. However, I used to be still notably worried and angry that my dad had hit him. I used to be a grown lady, for Christ's sake. I may want to date whomever I wanted. I did not want his permission or blessing. "Are you sure you're okay?" I asked again, and that I felt him nod into my hair. "I'm more than K. I am perfect due to the fact I have you ever in my hands. The best aspect that would make me experience awful is if to procure angry and fought together with your father over this," he instructed me, and I frowned. It annoyed me that he wasn't going to arise for himself. Status far away from him, I shouted, "You're acting like this no huge deal, whilst it actually is. He attacked you in your house." "No. I permit him into the residence. We spoke to each different." I cut him off. "Yeah, spoke all right. Your black eye and damaged nose speaks volumes. In a civilized way, he stated he wanted me to live far away from you and I instructed him it wasn't an alternative. He resigned himself to the truth that he wasn't going to win either way and we shook hands like men," Edward stated in a totally dignified tone as I looked at him in shock. Then, in a pretty tone, he introduced, "Then he hit me. 2 times. It turned into silent for a second before I realized there was no use fighting with Edward. He didn't deserve my anger, so I'd ought to reserve it solely for my dad. "I'm sorry he hit you. Don't be sore." Edward turned into reduce off by means of the sound of the front door establishing, after which slamming shut. "Edward," Carlyle's voice known as from the hallway. "Charlie Swan just left me the most insane message." He walked in, searching surprised while his eyes landed on Edward's battered look. God almighty, he wasn't kidding. "Oh, Charlie and I are going to have a few phrases tonight. Get over right here and I will take a look at Tapir if he broke anything." Carlyle appeared quite angry and I used to be happy I wasn't the only one. "Bella, you must go, there is going to be a number of blood." Edward sighed, understanding that the smell of fresh blood made me nauseous. It changed into horrific sufficient already simply standing beside Edward and looking at all the dried blood on his blouse and nostril. "Okay," I agreed and positioned a chaste kiss on his cheek. "I am sincerely sorry for what my dad did. In case you're feeling better later, call me." "I'm able to," Edward responded as he sat down in the front of Carlyle. "I really like you, Bella." I iced over and so did Carlyle. Did he clearly say that in front of his dad? Did he want to get the shit kicked out of him 2 times? For a brief second I was scared and didn't honestly understand if I should answer or fake I did not pay attention him. However, then I remembered what I would said to Sue no longer even an hour ago. "Sure," I said, "my Edward, and that I don't deliver a shit what all people else thinks." So I took a breath and determined my voice and my braveness. "I love you too," I informed him with a smile, and left feeling the apprehensive butterflies in my stomach flutter away. "Wherein are we going?" I requested, as Edward drove with a conceited smile plastered on his face. "It would not be a surprise if I informed you presently, would it not?" He stated with a wink, and that I found out it was exactly what he'd said the first time we might long gone out with each different. Whoa, deja vu. We are literally doing everything we did on our first date. I smiled on the memory of Geekward. How I overlooked his geeky and fuck hot ways. While he would stutter and hand me maimed flowers he'd sat on, now he was Sweetward. However, he still had a variety of the fuck hot ways, in spite of the broken face. I've determined to be very unoriginal this night. I giggled and regarded out the window into the darkish night time. I were excited when Edward confided me that, even though Charlie beat the snot out of him, literally because his nose had been damaged, he nevertheless desired to head on our date. Whilst the forest entrance came into view, I realized wherein we have been going. "You take me to our meadow?" I gasped, bouncing with exhilaration. I did say I used to be being very unoriginal and we have not been up here for the reason that we graduated college. "Yeah," I smirked at the memory. "That changed into a brilliant date. Who knew one little kiss could change into you defiling me in a public place?" He looked at me with a greatly surprised expression before his eyes narrowed playfully. If I bear in mind efficiently, you have been begging me to defile you in that meadow, rattling him, and his horny crooked smirk. Something, I responded in mock annoyance. You regarded to enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Lots, he sighed as he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I smirked wickedly in return, knowing I had the equal effect on him as he had on me. The upside become, being a female, I ought to disguise it higher. UK over there, you're squirming and lousy lot. He shot me a grimy appearance before his eyes trained returned on the road. We are right here. I got out of the automobile and regarded around, although it become a chunk needless considering the fact that I ought to see infrequently something till Edward pulled out a big flashlight. His hand grasped mine, or even with the dim mild, I ought to see his severe green eyes sparkling. Say it, I understand you want to. His chuckled a chunk before I felt him lean in and place his forehead towards mine, so we had been searching immediately into each other's eyes. I'll keep you safe, he whispered and leaned in to capture my lips together with his, simplest to region a soft and mild kiss on them. From the whole thing, from the harm I prompted you earlier then, from all that I used to be, and am nonetheless striving to remove, and, he stopped mid-sentence, but I knew what he having problem announcing. James will not do any harm us. He'll in no way locate you if we are cautious, and we are able to be. I attempted to assure him, but Edward nonetheless appeared conflicted. If he ever comes for me, Bella, promise me you'll depart me and never look returned. I'd willingly receive demise, if it intended knowing you had been secure. I checked out him in disbelief. How may want to he count on me to depart him if James came for him? That could be when he needed me maximum. I may want to never leave him, in particular if I knew he become in danger of any kind. No, I won't promise you that. I objected, and he opened his mouth to talk earlier than I cut him off. Do not forget while you instructed me which you had been my husband, divorce or no longer. Till demise do us part, remember. I may not give you up without a fight. Everywhere you move, I'm coming with you. I failed to recognize the implication of what I had said till it came out of my mouth. I didn't imply I'd take my very own life if he died. Due to the fact, in all honesty, I had no idea what I'd do if Edward become taken from me. We were younger nonetheless, I'd in no way given it an awful lot thought, and I did not really want to. We're going to talk approximately this later. Allows just have this night, I cautioned as Edward nodded in agreement, guiding me through the forest up the tiny darkish course that led to the meadow. Whilst we arrived on the meadow, it became so surreal. He'd decorated it nearly the exact equal as he did on our first date, with some minor changes. However, what changed into odd changed into that. Regardless of all the passing time, it had never modified. The whole thing became exactly the way it became after I finally noticed it, from the trees to the patches of untamed flowers. It became as if this location turned into an changed universe, in which time never moved on and the outside world did not depend. This become our location, our sanctuary. Ooh, I see we went for the fancier choice and bought a white plastic bench rather than chairs, I teased, and a small blush tinted his cheeks. Home Depot's best, he shrugged and the corners of his mouth tugged. It is stunning, I smiled, walking into the center of the dainty twinkling Christmas lights. It is so outstanding. This area hasn't modified in any respect. While I'm here with you, it's like nothing ever changed among us. I laughed and he joined in, pulling me with him to sit down at the bench. As quickly as he sat down, I attacked him, my lips claiming his. He tasted like heaven and hell blended together. 1 minute I used to be glad because he was kissing me, the subsequent I used to be annoyed due to the fact I craved greater. His tongue ran alongside the out of doors of my lip and that I opened for him, feeling his shallow breaths blow into my frame as I panted towards him, now not in control of my body. I moaned in pleasure and that I knew we had to sluggish down or we'd come to be doing more than I was ready for. I really like you, he informed me in a low tone, almost a whisper. Do not you watched it as a piece forward for a primary date? I teased, shrugging indifferently earlier than adding seriously, I really like you too. I have a wonder, he announced, bending over to accumulate something from a big cooler he had beside the bench. If it's any other locket, I don't want it. I am in no way taking mine off. I advised him, fingering the coronary heart that rested on my chest. It is not a locket, however it is champagne, he smiled cheerily, retaining up 2 bottles in his arms. This guy knows me so well. 2 hours later, after drinking both bottles of champagne and guffawing so hard our aspects harm, we began dancing. Edward added his iPod and docking station, and performed Paolo Nutini's Sweet, for me. We swayed collectively, with my head on his shoulder, and Edward sang softly into my ear. Oh darling, I will kiss your eyes. And lay you down in your rug. Simply provide me a few candy. After my hug, Edward had an incredible voice and the moment turned into so candy, it made my eyes water. Either that or I had drank manner an excessive amount of champagne. I love you, I breathed and grew to become my head so it turned into tucked into his neck. Oh and I will be there. Looking forward to you. We danced till 3 inside the morning and once I were given sleepy, Edward carried me to the auto. After using me home, he tucked me into mattress, kissing me goodnight gently. The following morning, when I woke, I found a pitcher of water and some Advil beside my bedside table. I couldn't prevent the smile that spread on my face or the tears that formed in my eyes. It still felt so strange to be sorted with the aid of someone once more. Edward virtually cherished me and he cared so deeply for me. So the hell with Irina, Tanya, James, or all and sundry else who wanted to stop us from being together. We have been satisfied. Edward became mine and this time nothing could wreck our for all time. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to smack that stupid mustache off his face and make him feel what Edward felt when he attacked him out of the blue. I'm not sorry, Charlie stated in a disinterested tone. I saw red. Maybe not now, but you will be sorry when Edward presses charges and you lose your job. By the way, what a great chief of police you are. Attacking someone, even when the situation had nothing to do with you. I snarled back at him, digging my fingers into the couch and looking around my dad's living room in an attempt to calm myself down. I was sorry I even came to speak to him. It had been 2 weeks since he beat the shit out of Edward and the only words I'd said to him were, if you value your life, stay away from me. He must have gotten the message because hadn't tried communicating with me after that. It was on Sue's insistence that we reconcile. I thought she'd meant Charlie was ready to act like a normal person again and was sorry, but apparently I was mistaken. He was still being a dick. It has every goddamn thing to do with me when it involves you, Bella. You're my little girl and I won't let that scumbag hurt you again. Little girl, I asked in disbelief. How old do I fucking look? Language. I paid no attention to him and continued ranting. I'm 26 years old. I'm not a little girl. I live by myself. I have a job. I have an ex-husband. I pay taxes. I'm a fully grown adult and I do not need your blessing or your opinion on who I date. Charlie stood up and began pacing around his living room. May I remind you that when that fucker cheated on you, you were distraught, catatonic, even though you hid it well. You left Forks, Bella, you left me and it scared me, because all I want is to know that at the end of the day you are safe and happy. When he did that to you, I didn't know where you were and I knew for a fact you were upset. I'm happy, Dad, it's only when we're apart that I'm unhappy. I argued and my father rolled his eyes and sighed. Enough with the hopeless romantic bullshit. I've been in a marriage that didn't work out, Bells. I know it feels like you can't make it without them, but you can. Trust me, you can. You don't need to go back to him just to forget the sense of loss. Lots of marriages end. I cut him off before he could finish. Stop it, just stop. I shouted, holding my hand up before continuing in a softer tone. You don't know anything about what I'm feeling, Dad. I understand what you're saying but this isn't about trying to save my marriage. We're not you and Mom. My marriage is over and I know that. But my relationship with Edward is not. There's no sense of loss in what we have now, only the happiness of a new beginning. I know you're worried but this is my decision. And I love him. I shrugged and Charlie grumbled something unintelligent before sinking down into his chair. Fine, he sighed in defeat, scrubbing his face with his hands. I don't care. Do what you want, but if he hurts you, you can go crying to your mother in Phoenix again. Because I warned you that this would blow up in your face. Wow. Thanks for the support. I replied sarcastically. Don't mention it, he grumbled before adding, now I'm serious. Don't mention this to me anymore. Don't bring him over here. Don't let me see him. Don't come crying to me when it's over. Sighing, I gave up and walked out, knowing he was going to be stubborn about this no matter what I said to him. At least we were on better terms than before. I was only halfway home when I got a call from Angela. I sighed heavily, as I always did now when I saw her name light up on the caller ID. She wanted to spend time with me again because she'd said she'd been neglecting me as a friend and had been spending all her time with Ben. It was true, but I didn't mind all that much. It kept the new annoying Angela busy, and when she was busy, she didn't have time to interrogate me about my life. Honestly, I missed the old Angela a lot. I missed how it used to be so easy to hang out with her and talk to her about anything. It sucked that she'd changed the moment that ring went on her finger. "Hello," I answered, a bit reluctantly. "Bella," Angela cheered, and I groaned internally. "We need to meet up. I miss you. We have to talk about everything. What's going on? How's Edwa?" I cut her off mid-sentence. It was her own bad luck that she called me on a bad day. "Angela, I can't do this with you anymore. It's so fucking irritating that you constantly pump me for information about Edward, when it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Then even when I tell you to back off you stop, but then do the exact same thing the next day. I'm not an idiot. I know you want to know something. So why not just fucking ask me?" I screamed into the receiver. Angela choked on her words. "What?" I asked, truly curious now. She definitely wanted something from me, but it was something she couldn't ask me outright. I wanted to know so Angela and I could move past this. I wanted things to go back to the way they were with us. "Spit it out, Ang. Come on, I miss the old you, and the only way I get her back is if you stop beating around the bush and ask me whatever it is you want." I'm so sorry, Bella. I can't do this anymore," she cried before hanging up the phone, leaving me totally and utterly confused. I'd tried calling Angela, but she wasn't answering her phone. Ben said she hadn't come home, and I was really starting to worry. What if something happened to her? It would be all my fault if she got hurt. I shouldn't have snapped at her. "Angela, call me, I'm scared." "Where are you? Ben said you didn't come home and he's probably freaking out too." "Forget what I said. I just had a really shitty day and I've never felt so guilty and horrible in my life that I made you upset. Please, please, please call me." That was only one of the many messages I'd left on her cell phone. By 11 that night, Ben called me and told me she'd come home eventually. "Was she okay?" I asked, tears blurring my eyes. "Bella, she wasn't upset by anything you did. She's majorly unhappy with me at the moment. She left for her parents' house tonight." Ben sighed, and I could hear the frustration and hurt in his voice as he spoke. "Her parents," I gasped. But they live in Turkey. When is she coming back?" Ben didn't speak for a minute. All I could hear was his ragged breathing as he held in sobs. "She's not coming back. She called off the wedding. She doesn't love me, apparently." Ben proceeded to tell me everything that had happened. He didn't go into much detail, but it sounded as if Angela had changed her mind about marrying Ben over something. Then, like the shitty friend I was, I snapped at her and I'd lost her because of it. Maybe I'd lost her for Ben too. When did she leave the house? She could still be at the airport. If we hurry, we could make it there on time and stop her from going. "Bella, she doesn't love me anymore. I don't think she ever really did. She liked the idea of marriage to me, but then it started becoming real to her and I don't know, she just didn't want it after all. I'm really sorry, Ben. I'm sure she'll come around though. I know she loves you. I mean, her life is here with you. All she ever wanted to do was spend time with you, and when she spoke about you, she got this loved up look. She cares, Ben, and if you care, you'll go after her. Don't let her leave like this." I advised him, because I was sure she was only scared of the unknown. "Yeah, I'll try my best. But I see no point in fighting a losing battle. You can't say that when you haven't even tried fighting." "Like I said, I'll try my best." He sighed, and already he sounded defeated. I'd already failed one friend miserably, I couldn't fail another. I owed it to Angela if nothing else. "Do you want to come over and take your mind off things?" "Edward's coming over anyway." I lied, but I knew Edward wouldn't let me down if I needed him. "Edward, as in Edward Cullen?" he asked, a trace of surprise in his voice. "Yeah, do you know him?" I didn't see how he could know him. Ben wasn't from around here, and from the way Angela used to speak of him, she made it sound like he didn't have very many friends except Eric. "No," Ben answered quickly. Eric told me about oh, that's right. Eric knew about Tanya and Edward from our squabble in the nightclub. I had forgotten that Tramp was Eric's girlfriend. That and a gold-digging whore. About Tanya and Edward, I finished for him, saying her name through gritted teeth. Even saying her name was repulsive to me, especially since I knew the truth about what she and Irina had done to Edward. Yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought it up. But yeah, I'd really appreciate it if I could come over. I need to be in the company of people so I don't drink myself to oblivion. Don't worry about it, we'll drink, just not to oblivion. Ben was as cheery as a person who just lost his fiancée could be. I was glad I called Edward because I had no idea what to say to Ben. Edward, however, was an expert in comforting. You have to be positive about it. Keep telling yourself you'll get her back. Edward drilled into Ben's head over and over again. It seemed to be working though. I think the vodka also helped. Edward and I tried to make an effort not to be too touchy-feely with each other around Ben. Edward saw it would only serve to make him more depressed if he saw us all loved up, and I agreed. Still, it was strange. I hadn't noticed how affectionate we were with each other until we had to stop for Ben's sake. It was practically killing me to keep my distance. So, have you guys been back together a while now? Ben slurred a bit. Yeah, not long. Only a couple of months. I answered simply, not wanting to explain our situation. Edward tried to contain his smile at my answer, but failed miserably. You're a lucky guy, Cullen. Belle is one hell of a keeper. He smiled bitterly. I know, Edward replied in a low tone as if it was only for my ears to hear, while his baby finger intertwined with mine, out of Ben's sight. I had no idea how that one discreet touch could set my body on fire. I work too much. My life is dedicated to my job. That's why Angie doesn't want me. Ben murmured as he took another swig from the bottle in his hands. Angela's probably going through something right now. Everything will work out, I hope, he mumbled and sighed before standing on unsteady legs. I'm going to head home. I want to be alone for a while. Thank you for listening to my pathetic whining. Didn't he know both Edward and I had been there before? Shut up, I asserted. It wasn't pathetic. We're your friends, Ben, we're here for you. I assured him and went over to give him a friendly hug which he gladly returned. I'll drive you home, Edward promised and grabbed his car keys. Ben thanked me and staggered out to Edward's car, but before Edward could leave, I grabbed his hands and dragged him back toward me. Pressing my body into him, I captured his lips in a frantic kiss, needing him but knowing we couldn't let Ben see. There were waterworks going on in my pants and I felt like I was going to implode if I didn't feel him against me. Come back after you drop Ben home. I breathed frantically and Edward nodded before taking my lips again. I love you, he told me, his voice husky and low. I love you too. Now go and hurry back. I said this, but my body and lips were unwilling to let him go. He gave me one last kiss and squeeze for the road, before hurrying himself out to Ben. While he was gone, I tried desperately to keep myself busy. But all I could think about was the feeling of his lips and body pressed against mine. I knew that if I didn't gain control over myself by the time he got back, we would be doing a lot more than making out. In all fairness, Edward looked like sex on legs tonight in his dark jeans and baby blue t-shirt. It was a loose shirt, but it didn't look too big on him, it just showed the outline of his perfect pecs and abs whenever he moved. Screw it, I'm going to jump him. Calm down, I whispered to myself as I took deep breaths, attempting to slow my heart, which was pounding frantically in my chest. The door opened and I all but jumped on him before he even had a chance to step inside. However, I noticed this time he wasn't as into my kisses as he had been before. What's the matter? I asked as I nibbled on his bottom lip and my hands greedily traveled across his chest, thinking about how it would feel if he did that to me. Wow, am I horny? Nothing, he dismissed, but I could tell something was up with him. I gave him a tell me look and he sighed before continuing, I don't like him. Who don't you like? I questioned, pushing away my desire and halting my kisses so I could talk to him properly. Ben. I had no idea where this had come from. Edward had been friendly and supportive to Ben when he'd been here. So either something had happened in the car on the way to get Ben home or Edward was really good at concealing his feelings. What? You were getting along great before you guys left. Did something happen? I asked him, concerned now. I caressed his cheek lovingly as a way to comfort him. No, nothing happened in the car. There's something not right with that guy. I'd prefer it if you stayed away from him. How can you say that after having only met him once? I was starting to get a bit pissed. He was telling me to stay away from Ben, whose fiancée just left him, because he was getting a weird vibe after only meeting him once in his entire life. Bella, trust me on this one. That guy is no good. Edward pleaded, and it reminded of Charlie telling me to stay away from Edward. I was sick of being told who I could be friends with or date. I could feel the anger boil inside of me and I lashed out. Of course I'll trust you. You've been such a good fucking judge of character before. I shouted at him, regretting what I'd said the moment the words left my mouth. I was about to apologize when Edward cut me off. That was a cheap shot and you know it, he growled. That guy is a creep, and if you think he isn't, well, it looks like the fucking tables have turned. I'm only looking out for you because I love you, Bella. I want you safe and that's all. Edward shouted before marching to the front door. Angela left him. I can't just leave a friend when he has no one else to turn to. He stopped short and turned slightly. Ben's not your friend. He's digging for something, and my best guess is, your friend Angela was in on it too. I gasped at what he was implying. I knew there was something up with Angela. How? What? I couldn't string a sentence together in my state of shock. If he comes near you again, tell me and I'll get rid of him. Edward saw it in an ice-cold and razor-sharp voice, then made a move to leave. Edward, I called, don't go yet, I'm sorry. You're looking out for me, I was being a bitch. We said nothing for a moment and he didn't move. I think he was trying to calm down before he answered me. I didn't blame him if he was angry at me. I had lashed out for no reason other than I was being stubborn. He only wanted to make sure I was safe. No, he whispered, standing with his back to me. You're right, I'm a shitty judge of character, but I have been a lawyer for a while. I know when someone is trying to coax something out of you, and Ben's doing just that. He told me, turning around so I could see his blazing emerald eyes. What do you think he wants? I think he's probably snooping for someone. Edward answered, coming over to take my hands in his, which I didn't realize had been trembling, until he touched me. But who would want to? I stopped when realization came to me. All the pieces of the puzzle were fitting together and they were making a pretty clear picture. Tanya. We both answered in union. You said Tanya was dating Eric, who is Ben's business partner and, supposedly, best friend. Tell me this then, if they're so close, when Ben's fiancée left him and moved to another country, why would he come to you, who was actually Angela's friend, rather than go to his own best friend? I felt like such an idiot for not seeing this sooner. Maybe I was the one who was bad judge of character. Because I told him you'd be here too. I admitted. That's what I thought, he said before murmuring curses about Tanya under his breath. How did I not see this? I knew there was something up with Angela. She kept asking stuff about you and I never thought it could be Tanya's doing. It's not your fault. If it's anyone's fault, it's mine. Well, there's no point playing the blame game, Edward. It's no one's fault other than that psychotic bitch's. The question now is, how are we going to deal with it? Quote, stay away from him. Don't speak to him. If he somehow manages to get a hold of you and asks you why you've been avoiding him, tell him it's because I'm jealous. Be careful around him. He warned, and I nodded in agreement. Oh, there's one more thing, Edward added. I waited for him to continue. I'm not letting you out of my sight. So be prepared, Miss Swan, we're going to be spending a lot more time together. Wonder what I could do with a lot more Edward time. Oh, I quirked an eyebrow. What will we do to pass the time? I asked suggestively. Edward smirked crookedly. I have an idea or two. Our lips collided. Teeth scraped and bodies pushed against each other, as we moaned loudly in the otherwise quiet room. His hands were all over me and I cursed myself for wearing so many layers of clothing. My own hands nestled their way into his hair and his lips began to trail kisses downwards, until his tongue, lips and teeth were attacking my neck. The feeling of his body on mine was so raw and passionate. The loving words he whispered in my ear were almost too much to take. I needed this. I needed him. I was done denying myself. Making out with Edward on my bed was one of my favorite things in the world to do, so I couldn't even fathom how good the sex would be again. I'm ready. I want you, I rasped in his ear as he bit down on my neck. It hurt so good. Not yet, baby, he replied. I had to do a double take. He didn't want to have sex with me, after he had been pursuing me and begging me to take him back. Not to mention, I was lying here, willing and ready, underneath him. What do you mean not yet? I asked. Even to my ears my voice sounded whiny. Edward stopped attacking my neck so he could speak to me. He looked up with lust-filled, hungry eyes. I could tell he desperately wanted me too. Why torture both of us? I don't want to rush things, he answered. Rush things? I questioned, skeptically. I don't want to rush things because that's what we did in the beginning. We jumped into bed with each other when neither of us was ready. I don't want to make the same mistake again. His fingers began to trail down my neck. It's not about sex. I want you, Bella, he breathed huskily before bending down to capture my lips with his tongue plunging into my mouth and swirling around my own. And when I have your heart and soul, like you have mine already, I'll take your body, over and over again. Holy shit, my lady parts are on fire. I let out a mixture of a moan and a squeal. I couldn't exactly describe the frustrated sounds I was making. All I knew was, hearing Edward talking about taking me, over and over again, was not at all helping my resolve to not rush things. Edward, you're killing me, I breathed, causing him to chuckle above me. It'll be worth it in the end. I know, I told him. I knew he was right, of course. Still, this left me with an idea. We can't rush into sex, I agree. But you didn't say we couldn't use alternative methods until we're ready for other things. I felt his body shake with laughter as he smiled against my cleavage. No, you're right, I didn't say that, he agreed. I felt his hand begin to trail further down my body. Is that what you want? He asked carefully. I nodded, not able to find my voice. 20 minutes later, after a particularly satisfying round of alternative methods, we were exhausted and sated. How's that for wooing? Edward teased between gasps. Wow, I guess waiting won't be so bad after all, I answered, panting. Edward and I laughed together before joining in a hot kiss. Then we played round 2. When Edward and I came up for breath, we sat on the couch eating takeout. Both of us were smiling like loons and feeling a hell of a lot less sexually frustrated than before. So am I promoted again? Am I your boyfriend? Edward asked, his mouth full of chow mein. I laughed. I guess giving me 3 mind-blowing orgasms would get you promoted. It was 4, he corrected with a smug smile. The last time you came twice. Whatever, it's a win for both of us. I shrugged and acted cool about it, even though inside I was shouting, hell yes. You're saying that like it's no big deal, but on the inside you're doing a happy dance. Edward commented and I looked to him in awe. Mind reader. Normally I would refute that, but I was seriously thinking that. I'm not even going to lie. I'm impressed. Are you a mind reader now? I questioned and Edward chuckled. I wish I was so I could know everything that goes on in that pretty little head of yours. Sadly though, I'm not. I just know you really well. I smiled at that. I liked the idea of him knowing me on that level. It seemed sweet that he took the time to care about silly stuff like what was on my mind. Okay then, tell me what I'm thinking right now, I ordered, sitting up and tucking my knees under me. I tried to make my face void of any emotion, but I could tell I wasn't having much luck with it. You look like you're having a stroke. Edward laughed and I threw him a dirty look. Sorry baby, he said, even though I didn't think he was all that sorry. Now, you're thinking that I'm so super sexy that you can't wait for me to take you into your bedroom and ravish you. It did sound like something I would think. Sorry, but no, I answered and he pouted adorably. I was thinking that I want you to come with me to my Christmas party at work, then afterwards you can take me into my bedroom and ravish me all you'd like. His lips were on mine before I could register it. I would love to go with you and I think that after the Christmas party would be the perfect time to thoroughly ravish you, he said with a smirk and I giggled. All night, I questioned, only half joking. All night, he promised, smiling to himself as he devoured the rest of his meal. We sat and watched TV for a while before the tiredness from our activities set in and we both had trouble keeping our eyes open. Come on, I said after he yawned for the 10th time. Bedtime. When you say that, it sounds incredibly sexy. As opposed to what? Your mom saying it. I teased him and a look of disgust came across his face. Okay. Rule from now on. Whenever I say sexy, you can't bring my mother into the discussion, he stated, getting up from the couch and holding his hand out to help me up. I almost skipped to the bedroom but stopped short when I saw Edward heading for the guest room. Where are you going? To bed, Edward answered slowly, as if it were obvious. Bed is this way. I motioned to my room and his eyes lit up. I get to sleep in your room. I sighed. Edward, I think we're past sleeping separately after today. I yelped when he ran at me, lifting me up and carrying me bridal style into the bedroom. I know my hand is going to fall off soon, but I want you again, he breathed as he laid me down gently on the bed. Needless to say, we didn't get much sleep. I watched him sleeping peacefully, loving how at ease and beautiful he looked with his lips slightly parted and his long lashes enclosed on each other. I was tempted to wake him up so I could sort of have my way with him, but I couldn't do it when he looked so cozy. After my eyes had greedily ran over his magnificent face, they started taking in his perfect muscled chest as it rose with every breath he took. I was glad I had convinced him to take off his shirt before he went to bed, telling him I'd be too warm with him snuggled against me if he wore it. I think he knew I was full of shit, but he didn't care. I liked how he had a dusting of hair on his chest that wasn't gross like other guys' chest hair, and I loved how it got sexier. Further down, I looked down to where the hair trailed down his abs and formed into his happy trail. Looking at him, and his general hotness, was making it more difficult for me to stick to this not rushing thing. I mean, it was me who had said at the start that I wasn't going to rush into this with him. But, at this point, I was sure he wasn't going to hurt me. The alarm on my beside table went off and Edward groaned before snuggling into my side. Turn it off. We don't have to go today. We can just stay in bed and play. I smiled and gave him a quick peck on the lips before hopping out of bed. As nice as that sounds, it won't help with the not rushing things, so get up. Plus we're not telling Oliver we couldn't go to an incredibly expensive therapy session because you have a hard-on. I teased and Edward snickered. 1. I'm masochistic, so I would like to torture myself and play with the not rushing things loophole. 2. You're not paying for therapy, so to you it's not incredibly expensive. And lastly, I have a hard-on for you, and it's all your fault for being so amazingly sexy. Get up. I already am. He waggled his eyebrows and I rolled my eyes at his innuendo. 2 hours later and we were fresh-faced and happy, walking into Oliver's office. Oliver seemed to notice immediately that something was different and questioned us about what we did yesterday. I blushed and Edward sported a shit-eating grin. It didn't take a genius to figure out we weren't playing Monopoly all night. So I take it all as well since the incident a few weeks ago in the physical aspect of your relationship. Oliver asked Edward and he nodded. Incident? I questioned, confused. What were they talking about? A minor setback. I freaked out for a moment when I was Edward blushed and I was still lost. When you were what? I was in the shower bathing. He told me, emphasizing the word bathing. So, I questioned, not sure what that had to do with the incident. For God's sake, Edward mumbled, his face going brighter than I'd ever seen it go before. I was relieving some tension and I freaked out for a moment. Relieving some tension. Oh, relieving some tension. Oh, right. I understand now. But why didn't you tell me you had an incident? I was a bit disappointed he hadn't confided in me and I wondered if what we did last night would have happened had I known about this before. Honestly, I completely forgot about it. It was the day Charlie hit me and I had to get my nose fixed. I called Oliver before I got your messages that day. I'm sorry, Edward answered and the look in his eyes told me he really had forgotten. Still, for some reason I was pissed I didn't know about it. The session went on as it normally did and I could see Edward chancing glances at me when he thought I wasn't looking. He was worried I was angry with him. I could tell by the way he kept his distance. On the way back home in the car, however, it seemed that the silence got too much for him to take. This is driving me insane. What are you thinking? Are you angry because I forgot to tell you about me freaking out? I said I was sorry. I'm not angry, I assured him, giving him a small smile. I guess I'm disappointed, though. You're making it sound like it was less than it was, but you having a setback is something I need to know. It's a big thing and it's not easily forgotten. You knew that had I known you had an episode less than 3 weeks ago, we would have never done what we did last night. You're right, I know that you wouldn't have been with me had I told you about what happened, but honestly Bella, I forgot about it. I was caught up in you last night and I promise if it ever happens again, you'll be the first one I'll call, not Oliver. Okay, he asked as he took my hand in his, placing a kiss on the inside of my wrist. Okay, I smiled, feeling like I'd achieved something. Okay, he smiled back at me. My work Christmas party, which Edward and I were attending, was a black tie event. I think it was because we had to look like the high and mighty, who would also be attending, rather than the average employee. Since it was my first Christmas party with my new job, I wanted to make a good first impression. Thankfully I had Alice to help with that. What about this one? Alice asked, holding up the sluttiest dress I'd ever seen. Seriously? I raised an eyebrow and she cracked, laughing her ass off. No, I'm just fucking with you. Oh, Mommy said a bad word. Evelyn tattled, tugging on Jasper's pants to get his attention. I know, sweetheart. I'll spank Mommy for it later. Jasper winked suggestively and Alice giggled while Evelyn looked confused. Guys, that's cruel. Your children do not need to hear that. I could remember how gross it used to be when my mom brought home her flavor of the month and I would have to listen to innuendo after innuendo. I thanked God I only stayed there for summers. No, you know what's cruel? Making a guy go dress shopping. Do you see how whipped I am? Come on princess, let's take Henry and go get some ice cream. Jasper suggested and Evelyn cheered happily as she went with her father. I'm so happy I have Jazz. Alice said, all googly-eyed, once they were out of sight. He's so good with the kids and don't even get me started about what he's like in the bedroom. The things that man can do with his. Okay, that's enough. I cut her off. What about this one? I asked holding up a red flowing cocktail dress with a diamond brooch on the side which synced it in on the waist. On the back it dipped low into a V shape and I thought the color would suit my complexion. It's nice but it's not the one. Alice insisted so I put it in the maybe pile. How are you and Angela doing? Is she still being weird? She betrayed me completely. Moved back to her parents' home in Turkey. I was choking up thinking about it. I still couldn't believe Angela had helped Ben get information on me for Tanya. It was so not like her, but then again, what's to say I knew the real her at all? Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry. Yeah, was all I could say in reply. Found it. Alice squealed as she pulled a dress from the rack of the designer section. I found the one, Bella. You'd swear she was talking about finding the man of her dreams. Though sure enough, she had found the one. It was everything I was looking for and I mentally patted myself on the back for bringing Alice dress shopping with me today. It's perfect. I smiled. We will continue in next part.